Hey, this is Michael Avon Oming, the comic book creator of titles like Powers, Blue Book, and William of Newbury, and you are listening to the Oblivion Bar podcast.
Welcome to the Oblivion Bar podcast with your host, Chris Hacker and Aaron Knowles.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 190 of the Oblivion Bar podcast. I'm your guy who doesn't need Eric Pritt's 2000 EDM classic Call on Me to show up to Jazzercise class on time, Chris Hacker. And joining me is the finest guitar player this side of the Mason-Dixon, my co-host and BFF, Aaron Knowles.
Well, you keep on dancing with the devil. One day he's going to follow you home.
That's right, brother. Welcome, everybody, back to the Oblivion Bar podcast. Aaron and I are not alone this week. We had to bring in the big guns to talk about these two incredible films.
Somebody's watching me.
Again, as you probably saw as you clicked on the episode, we are talking about Sinners and Warfare, sort of a double feature on the Oblivion Bar podcast. And, this week,
very different films.
Two very different films, two very excellent films that we're going to have very different discussions on, I'm sure. And speaking of the discussions, we had to bring in, again, as I said, the big guns. Joining us over from the Comic Book Couples Counseling, sitting in the third chair, one of our BFFs in the comic book world, Brad Gullickson, is joining us here for episode 190. Welcome, Brad.
Hello. I have had to tell myself a mantra before coming onto this podcast. I had to do some unique New Yorks, and the arsonist has oddly shaped feet, and Brad, let them talk. It's not your show. It's not your show. It's not your show. So yeah, I feel like I'm in good behavior to guest today.
The Human Torch was denied a bank.
That's it.
Ow now, brown
Who's
cow.
got the oddly shaped feet? I can't remember.
Well, it's really hard. I know when you're sitting in chair one and you're on another podcast, Aaron will tell you, because we recently appeared on Comics and Chronic with our good friend Anthony and Anthony and Co. And we got about 35 minutes into our conversation about Wonder Woman Dead Earth. And I'm like, okay, let me take this over. So anyway, Anthony, when you were, that's what you do. That's what we do, right?
Yeah. I am the mouth dork for a reason. I do not shut up. I'm really trying to change in my elder years. So we'll see. We'll see.
I'm just going to throw this out there also. Brad Gullickson is the most huggable podcaster 100%. In the business.
It's true.
I don't even know if he's okay with that.
I am okay with that. I've worked very hard on this huggable body.
Okay. I aspire to that level.
Yeah. Aaron, you're like a very close second, I'll say.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Closer to second than first.
Brad, briefly, I'm sure folks, everyone, if you're listening to this right now and you have not listened to Comic Book Couples Counseling, I don't know what to tell you. Shame on you, firstly. But for the layman, will you please tell folks briefly what CBCC is? And then also tell me what it was like to talk to Grant Morrison last week.
Comic Book Couples Counseling is a podcast that I do with my lovely wife, Lisa. We've been doing it for the last 5 years. It is, it's a comic book show. We talk comics. Usually we have a guest on to discuss a comic that they have created. This past week, we celebrated Superman Day by having Grant Morrison on the show to talk All-Stars Superman. This is a conversation that I never thought we would actually have, and the fact that we were able to pull it off and make it happen, and then the conversation itself was so wonderful. A lifetime highlight, honestly.
Yeah, and it is excellent. I listened to it the moment it popped on Patreon, and I can't recommend folks enough to go and listen to that, because again, not only does Grant not often do interviews, especially podcasts, but again, as you said, the conversation is excellent. And we've talked about this, through text and such. I think we got a similar feeling. Aaron knows this. Not too long ago when we had Brian K. Vaughan on the show, when you get these big creators on and you're able to talk to them, just have the chance to talk to them. Wow, what a moment. But also, what if that conversation turns out incredible? And that's what happened with you guys with Grant. And I just couldn't be happier for you.
I do think that conversation actually pairs well with a lot of what is being explored in both Sinners and Warfare. These two movies, while they don't necessarily look like they share a lot in common, when you just look at the log line, they are both films that are looking to our past to talk very much about our current moment. And our conversation with Grant Morrison in exploring Superman and All-Star Superman is also a conversation that's about this current moment by looking back, 87 years over the life of Kal-El, Superman.
If the listeners that are listening right now, which I know they are all listening very intently, go listen to the Comic Book Couples Counseling podcast, and also make sure you take a box of tissues and a loved one. Okay. And prepare yourself, because I made the mistake of the first time I ever listened to CBCC. I was driving from Tennessee to New York, and I was in the van alone by myself, just driving for hours. And I'm like listening, and I'm just, holy shit. I am like self-analyzing. I'm going through everything, like my relationships, my past. And at one point I was just bawling.
Yeah.
I was just bawling because you guys explore some real emotions through real texts, through real comics, through books, and through in-depth like methodology, and it's an incredible show.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. We don't try to make you cry every episode, but it does happen.
But that one hit me. Yeah. So
speaking of crying, Aaron,
go
ahead. What were we gonna say? I
was gonna say they might be happy tears also.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Happy tears. Here we go. Here's some happy Oblivion Bar tears, because everybody, a couple things have happened since the last time we were able to actually sit down and talk to all of you. Over the last week, not only did we get one incredible sponsor, but we have two here. Aaron, tell the folks our very first sponsor. Who did we get somehow? How did we trick them into partnering with us here on the Oblivion Bar podcast?
Pop Rocks.
Pop Rocks. Yes. Thank God for them.
No, I'm kidding. We got Oni Press, the loudest. Huh?
I said, whoa.
Oh, whoa. Yeah. Like you're like surprised. Yeah. The loudest thing in comics,
since 1997.
Since 1997. First off, we are incredibly thankful that they decided to partner with us. And the representative that we've been speaking to, I don't know if we want to drop his name or anything, Chris, I'll let you do it. Just Danny, fantastic. Like the relationship we're already building with, we already have a great relationship with a lot of Oni Press creators already. Patrick.
Patrick Horvath's been on the show recently. Tyler Crook and Christopher Cantwell's been on recently. Yep. Especially, in the last, I'd say 5 or 6 episodes, we've had a weird amount of Oni Press. Just that was not part of
unintentionally.
The deal. Yeah. They were just coming on because Oni Press is putting out incredible books right now.
Yes. Oh my God. And we love talking about incredible books. And so this is a very exciting time for us here at the Oblivion Bar.
Couldn't ask for a better small press publisher to partner with going into 2025. As we've sort of said already, looking at the slate that they have coming out, of course they have their Scott Pilgrims, they're known for having their occasional mega hit OGN, but then they have the EC Comics as well. Oni Press, what an incredible publisher. I only see them doing more incredible things. And everyone listening to this right now, the week that this episode releases, go over to @Oblivion Bar Pod, and we're going to have a pretty incredible giveaway to celebrate not only our partnership with Oni Press, but also our 5-year anniversary, which was on April 16th. So be on the lookout for that. Along with that, Aaron, we also partnered with one of our favorite local comic book shops out in St. Louis, Missouri, Endless Comics, Games, and Cards. This is a relatively new partnership, but Scott Sampson over there, former peer over at the fantasy shop when I used to work there in St. Louis, he has since moved over to Endless Comics, and he reached out. He said, "Hey, I like what you guys are doing at the Oblivion Bar." And I said, "We've been wanting to hitch our wagon to a local comic book shop because, again, we believe in that brick and mortar, space, the community that local comic book shops bring."
Shop local.
That's right. You got to keep those communities alive. There's too many forces, outside forces that are destroying, places like this. So if we can help prop them up, that's what we want to do. And they're going to be sponsoring Chris's Corner going forward, along with the normal ad reads here and there. So big shout out to Oni Press and Endless Comics for joining us over here at the Oblivion Bar podcast. One more small piece of housekeeping. Aaron, tell the folks how they can support the Oblivion Bar podcast.
If you want to support the Oblivion Bar podcast, consider checking out our Patreon. For your support, you can gain access to bonus episodes each week called The Grid, a behind-the-scenes look at how we prepare each episode with episode transcripts and Patreon polls, and a whole bunch of other exclusive goodies like giveaway free shit. We do it all the time. Come get it. Give a shot with a 7-day free trial at patreon.com/Oblivion Bar Pod, or check out the link in the show notes.
Wow, that was quick.
Micro Machine Man.
That was great. I like it. All right, let's move on. Everybody, again, check the show notes if you want to support the Oblivion Bar podcast. Real quick, before we get into these reviews, can I ask both of you really quick, where do we start? Do we go with Warfare or do we go with Sinners? What do you think?
I want to go Sinners. I'm just going to go right off the bat with Sinners.
Sinners first. Brad, what are your thoughts?
You know, both are great movies in my opinion. I don't want to spoil everyone's opinions here. I don't know how you two feel. I think Chris likes them both. But Aaron hasn't said. I enjoyed them both. I can talk about both at any moment, drop of a hat.
All right. Well, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into Sinners then.
Main topic.
Alrighty, let's talk about Sinners, the brand new Ryan Coogler film. Spoilers ahead. Also, we should just broadly say both for Warfare and for Sinners, big spoilers. We're just going to talk about it all in depth. Let's not waste time dancing around it. So, Brad, since you're sitting in our third chair and you're the guest here, initial thoughts on Sinners.
Yeah, I understand that we're going to be doing spoilers, but I just would highly encourage your listeners to please go and see the film, because there are some twists and turns in this movie that I would not want you to have ruined for you. I am a person that doesn't necessarily feel like spoilers should rule all narratives. Like, I think you don't really even know how you feel about a movie until you've watched a film 2 or 3 times. But just go and watch it, and go watch it on the biggest screen you possibly can.
Absolutely.
If you do have an IMAX, if you're one of the lucky 10 cities that has the IMAX 70 millimeter, I go and see it. Somehow we don't here in DC. It's criminal. But I saw it on IMAX. I've seen it twice now on IMAX, actually. I watched it again last night. I had to take Lisa to go see it. And she, like me, just adored this film. Yes, it's a horror movie, but it does what all genre films should do. It's speaking to larger themes. It's incredibly layered. And there's just a lot to talk about with this flick.
100% agree with Brad and Lisa. We're going to try and get to as much of this as possible throughout this review. We'll try and keep it as spoiler free, but there's going to be things that slip out.
No. It's spoilery. Sorry, everybody. If you haven't seen, sometimes if you're listening to this,
okay. Yeah, you had your warning.
We cannot dance around this.
Pause the shit and go see it, and then push play again. Okay.
Yes.
But
yes.
My initial thoughts, and I'll be as quick about this as possible, is this. It's incredible. The movie itself is it is more than I expected, and it's more than what I wanted, and everything that I could have asked for. So I am so excited to talk about this film because and yes, biggest screen you can see it on, with the best speakers that you can hear, because the music and the just everything goes into this. It's such a what do you call it? Like a phonic experience. This movie
cinematic.
is something that
it uses all the tools of movies.
Exactly. It is absolutely like a cinematic, just adventure. And I am so excited for people to see this movie, because I absolutely am thrilled about how well it went.
Mm-hmm. To echo both Brad and Aaron here, it tingles every single part of your senses while watching it, right?
Peter Tingle.
It gives you a little Peter tingle, right? And, again, the cinematography is absolutely insane. We'll talk about that. The composer absolutely is top notch. Obviously, Ryan Coogler from behind the camera is
fucking Coog, man.
Maybe the best he's been ever, ?
Yeah.
And the talent, of course, you could also make a strong argument. This is Michael B. Jordan's best role that he's ever been in.
Roles.
Top to bottom. Roles, yeah, plural roles. This movie, while watching it, almost from the jump, because and we'll talk about it here in just a moment. But as Brad mentioned, some lucky folks, me being one of them, got to see this in 70 millimeter, which is, according to Ryan Coogler, the optimal way to see this film. And from the moment you see Preacher Boy, drive up that driveway in front of that church, you can just see it in front of you how important this is. This is what I think Ryan needed to tell this story. He needed to tell it his way, and sort of the journey about how he went about telling it his way is not only like I'm trying to figure out the best way to describe this. Not only does it work out in his favor, but the movie is better for it because of it, right? Like if folks were able to get as much access to every single weapon that they could in their toolbox to make a movie like this, we as film goers would be much better for it, right? And it comes at a time too where Minecraft is currently the world leader in box office. Like Brad, I don't know if have you seen the Minecraft movie?
I skipped it, my friend.
Oh, okay. Not a bad option. You're one of the only people in the world that did, because it's killing right now. I think it's close to 700 million already, and it's only been in theaters for 2 weeks. So it'll hit $1 billion. It'll be the first $1 billion movie of the year. And as Aaron and I talked about in our previous review of Minecraft movie, while that movie is pretty bad overall, it does something really important for me, which is brings people to the movie theater. It's getting folks to go out to the movie theater, and it's helping in some way. Hopefully Hollywood doesn't learn the wrong lessons. Hopefully this movie makes a ton of money. That way they learn that lesson and not make more Minecrafts. But point being is that what a juxtaposition that this movie and what Warcraft is compared to what like most moviegoers are shelling out for, I guess. So Aaron, for the layman, of course, as we often do here in these reviews, go ahead and let's do an overview of Sinners.
Trying to leave their troubled lives behind, twin brothers return to their Mississippi hometown to start over, only to discover that an unknown evil is waiting to welcome them back.
Yes. And among other things, right? Like that's very basic cable description.
Yeah.
Brad, you mentioned that there are like multiple facets in this movie. Again, looking at that synopsis, sure. You know, the twins, as they're known in the movie, the smokestack twins, they come back to their hometown. They chose to leave Chicago to come back to their hometown. Did they? Brad, I think that's maybe my first question for you is your read. We don't really get a definitive answer in this movie. We get speculation, but
we do.
Do we? Do you think we do?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Because
I was going to shift it to Brad, but go ahead, Aaron.
Okay. I mean, so they literally they have the discussion in there where they talk about where the money came from. Mm-hmm. They robbed 2 different gangs that they were working for. They basically played them, and the woman said that, hey, when they figure it out, they're going to come down here and they're going to kill you. Like that's why they had to leave. They had no choice but to come home and try and create something back at home, not knowing the evil that not only is already at home, but the evil that's going to be coming back. And they said it in the beginning of the movie. We chose to come home to the evil that we knew, and they didn't know shit.
Brad?
Yeah, I mean, we don't what's great about the film is we don't have it all spelled out for us. I mean, there's Irish beer and Italian wine that they're selling at their juke joint. So, they got that stuff from 2 places in Chicago. And, that element, their history, whatever happened in Chicago, that's just enough there to tantalize. What's great about this movie is there's so much story beyond its runtime, and you can go down into all of these different paths and imagine, an entire universe of Sinners related tales. And, that's one of the great things that Ryan Coogler's always been able to do in his filmmaking. And I think he just takes it to the next level with this one. And, what's great about Sinners, what is honestly like one of the most surprising elements about Sinners is the time that it takes to tell its story, to tell its setup before the horrific stuff starts to happen. And I would say the best scene in the movie is not a horror scene at all and has almost nothing to do with the horror element. And then the movie goes into its next reel. I mean, this is very much like From Dusk Till Dawn, right? Like the Robert Rodriguez, Quentin Tarantino joint. It has almost the same structure in a lot of ways, but it's Ryan Coogler topping Tarantino and Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Right.
That was what I absolutely thought as a reference of this was absolutely From Dusk Till Dawn, because we get a family, kind of a family unit stuck in this building trying to fight off and survive. And so it's just, very, very similar.
Yeah. I mean, and I've even heard some people, Aaron, you're going to love this because we covered it one year for our Halloween special. I've even seen some comparisons to Night of the Demon, the Tales from the Crypt movie, the schlocky 90s movie where they're stuck in the hotel with Billy Zane.
That's Demon Night, my friend.
Or
not
Demon
Night
Night,
of
I'm
the
sorry.
Demon. And
Night of the
Demon
Demon. I'm
Night
sorry,
is great. And I love Ernest Dickerson as a filmmaker. That's one of my all-time favorite movies. I could, like, we're getting
Similar
even
concept,
further away
obviously way right. Yeah,
from
exactly.
Sinners, though.
Definitely quality difference between, those both Dusk Till Dawn and
Different
Sinners compared to
vibes.
different vibe, right? Quality's maybe not the best way to say that because I mean, there's definitely quality in now I'm all messed up.
Demon Night.
There's definitely quality there. It's just a different type of quality. It's asking a lot of different questions. But I want to go back a little bit. Aaron, you mentioned how the brothers come back on their own, right? Like they chose to come back to Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
I found myself wondering why, right? Like they have this money, they have all this, they have imports, the different liquors and such. Why do they choose? That's what's really burning me. You mentioned it because it's the devil they know, which you sort of alluded to the fact that like they eventually find the devil that they don't.
Yeah.
I just am curious, and I've done this even myself as someone who has left home multiple times. Aaron, you have as well. I guess we would be the two people to ask, right? Because you've left home and never gone back, and I have left home twice and came back to Indiana both times. Why do you think that is?
So, you think you mean for the movie itself?
In correlation with the movie, like is there where's the sort of through line there?
So, okay, for me, the way that I understood this storyline is if you look at it, where is the best place in this time of, we're just coming out of slavery. There's not a lot of
opportunity.
No, we're not. If you go back and look during slave times, like during, indentured servitude, Jim Crow era, there was a lot of tracking of, slaves. So there were sales records, there was notes, all this stuff. So now you have it where all these slaves are now no longer indentured servitudes. They've been released. They're kind of working these homesteads as groups, and now they're just larger communities that will defend themselves and will take care of their own as a Black community. What's a better place to hide from outside enemies than in your own community or in your own hometown, where people will probably protect you? Also, they're not looking to come down there and create any more animosity in the South.
Right. Yeah. I asked the question because of course I have an answer for it. Because, I came back to Indiana because it's comfortable, but these two men were in the North where they're free. I mean, free in quotations. They come back to the South in Mississippi and arguably maybe one of the roughest parts of the South where they are so not in their element. I mean, we meet that in the very beginning. We meet literally the leader of the Ku Klux Klan. We don't know that, but like we meet him in the first couple scenes in the movie. They are not safe there, and yet they come back. I just there's something there.
They're also
Brad,
not
what do you
safe
think?
up north either, and they have that conversation as well. The plantations aren't there. There's just taller buildings. Whatever they had been sold, what the North was going to be, what Chicago was going to be, what bootlegging with Al Capone was going to be. It didn't work out.
That was one of the best lines.
Yeah, we don't know exactly what happened, but the impression that I get, and again, this is what's great about the movie, is we're asking these questions like, well, what did happen? We don't know. But one of the great things about the movie is that these characters are lying to themselves and each other all the time. Yeah. And, that is explicitly revealed at the end in terms of the guitar. But, when they say like, well, it's better to come down to the devil we know, that's Stack talking to his little cousin. And, in those conversations early on with his little cousin, Preacher Boy, there's a lot of like boasting that's happening. They're really trying to play themselves up like they're, big time gangsters. They came back, they won Chicago, and now they're going to, return home in victory and win down here. And, it doesn't go that way. And probably was never going to go that way, whether there was a horror element or not.
Right. Because of the era they live in. There's no way you can win. I mean,
I was gonna say it's exactly what Brad said is like in the morning, they would have been dead anyways because they wouldn't have. There was going to be no.
They were under.
They were under, but also the Ku Klux Klan was planning to come and kill them the next morning. Yeah. So like it was not a safe bet They took a bet. They bet on they did the whole Russian roulette thing. Robbed the mob, robbed the and then came back and they're like, hey, we're gonna no, yeah. It's I love how just chaotic the story is. Just the hard landing that these two take into this town, and they think that they're going to come and hopefully with their reputation make it big, and it's just not gonna help out. It's not gonna help their favor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Aaron, I love the fact that you mentioned chaotic, because one thing that I've realized while watching this movie is that we have a master behind the camera in Ryan Coogler. This man has sculpted this movie to every right angle is tight. He has sculpted this movie to perfection, and it's like not a mistake that this movie takes place in Clarksdale, Mississippi in 1932, right? I'm going to give you a little bit of detail. You guys tell me if you guys want to stop, but I want to just give a little backstory on why I think Ryan Coogler decided to place centers in this time era and in this, this state, this town, what have you. So deep in the throes of Jim Crow, the movement of large numbers of black families were both to and from Clarksdale is a prominent pillar in that city's history. After World War I, plantation owners actually encouraged black folks after the Jim Crow era to move to other parts of Mississippi for work. Don't just stay here, go somewhere else for obvious reasons. By that time, Clarksdale had become the home to multiple different types of ethnic backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, mixtures of Lebanese and Italian and Chinese and Irish and Jewish. All these immigrant folks came to this town as like a hub of almost like a melting pot, like a sort of a miniature America in a way. And we see that in the movie. Like some people might watch this and go, wow, why, there's a Chinese family running 2 or 3 shops in this small town. Why is that? Is it just Ryan Coogler doing DEI? No, it's historically accurate. This is what was going on at that time. And then sort of to build off that, there's a legend about this town, about Clarksdale. A freeman named Bill Peace, who had served in the Union Army, had returned to Clarksdale after the war, pursued his former owner and allowed him to form a security force to prevent theft on the plantation. So Bill Peace used his military know-how to essentially act as a force around this plantation. He must have had a good relationship with his former slave owner. Who knows what the backstory is there? I couldn't find any info on that. However, on October 9th, 1875, a majority of the whites there in Clarksdale began hearing rumors that General Peace, I called him General Peace as a nickname, was preparing his troops to plunder the town. So again, Bill Peace comes to town, creates this sort of militia to protect his former owner's plantation. Some white folks hear about this and they go, not in my town. And they prepare basically their own militia to suppress Peace's quote unquote revolt across Mississippi. The white militia then frequently, took down these folks and even killed Bill Peace in that moment. So again, these two actual historical moments that happened in Clarksdale, I think, were a direct influence on Coogler and his formation of this original story. Brad, you mentioned you went to see this twice in IMAX. Is that correct?
Yes.
Aaron, how did you see it?
I saw it IMAX. I went to an early screener.
Saw it in IMAX. Okay. How were your guys' audiences?
The first audience was in Silver Spring, Maryland, and it was on fire. Like, it was one of the best theatrical experiences I've ever experienced. And there are some very horny moments in this movie that we all appreciated. And it was the type of film where you had the crowd going, like, speaking back to the movie, not in a disruptive way, but in conversation with the film. And like the screams of the audience also became part of the score as well. Like it was just beautiful. And then last night, Lisa and I went to see a 10 o'clock mall screening at Tyson's Corner Mall in McLean, Virginia. And there was like 20 of us, and we were quiet. And we all enjoyed it in our own silent ways, which just means that I got to really hear Lisa crying at the end. She was very loud.
Aaron, how about you? How was this is also like a reoccurring, Brad, I don't know if you're familiar, but this is like a reoccurring segment for Aaron and I, where we discuss our audience during that particular movie, because it varies to generally horrible to normal, like that's how it goes.
Yeah. And the audience experience is like so much about the movie itself. You know, like that's the color of going to the movies.
I had a better than normal experience. I did have quite a few people that wanted to, speak during the film or to the film. And so that was a little bit slightly disruptive. And then at one point I'm just like, fuck it. I'm going to get into it also. And I just, like, I didn't care anymore. So I was kind of like, cause I think the one thing that was really disruptive was the fact that, I had somebody next to me who during the scene where they were picking cotton, was like, oh no, I didn't come here for this. I just lost my appetite. And I'm just like, this is historical. Like, this is pretty fucking accurate. And, you should probably respect what we have all gone through for all this. Cause it was, very largely a black crowd, and it's like, for me, when I see things like this, as long as it's done respectfully and it's done, well, I portray it the way it's portrayed. It's important. It's part of the story. It is about this black community also trying to support itself and trying to be masters of their own destiny. And it's like, you want to like say that this, like, you should be like absorbing this, know,
have a little decorum, right? Like, let's be mature about this, please. In my instance, and I sort of hinted at it earlier, I actually saw this in 70 millimeter at downtown Indy, Aaron, where you and I went to see Quantumania. I will say this movie is a far better movie than Quantumania. And the
hating on Quantumania, man, Jesus,
Quantumania catching strays. It was an incredible viewing experience, not only because the crowd was great, but again, and we'll talk about it here in just a moment, because Ryan Coogler he's been going on like a press tour about the changes of aspect ratios in this film, again, specifically during the 70 millimeter viewing. Our print was number 5. It was there were only 10 prints made of the 70 millimeter in the entire world. So we had print number 5.
I hate you.
We were the second viewing of print number 5. And just sort of put this in perspective for everybody, and this is me being a total asshole. There are only 12 theaters in the entire US that can show 70 millimeter. Aaron, you actually have a theater you have 2 theaters in your town, New York City, that can play those 70 millimeter.
This small town.
I think it's Lincoln is one of them, but I don't know where the other one
Lincoln
is.
Square.
Yeah. But it was amazing. And, a little small sidebar is that I went by myself, of course, and I was sandwiched between 2 black couples. And, you could, it almost felt at certain times in the movie that you could sort of cut the tension with a butter knife, right? Like, it was, again, as you said, Aaron, a mostly black, audience, which was great. And everyone was awesome. But, being like the only one of the, I would say, like, there were probably less than 10% of the people in the crowd were white. There were definitely, no, never felt danger or anything like that. But
you just see the Ku Klux Klan uniform. You're just like looking around like, oh, fuck, I'm not making it out of here.
There are scenes like where at the end they're all, and again, we already put spoilers out there, but you have smoke mowing down the Ku Klux Klan in a very like Django Unchained type of grotesque, way. I mean, it was very satisfying. But
not grotesque, celebratory, I would say.
Yeah.
My audience went nuts for that scene.
Yeah. And again, as you should. I mean, it was a very like relieving moment for him to sort of come out of the woods and be prepared in that sense. But again, as a white dude in that crowd, you're like, oh, yes, I'm one of us. I'm celebrating with you guys in that way. But and again, I wanted to mention, Ryan Coogler's been talking about how, this film, it changes very vividly throughout it. There's a really awesome video that I will link in the show notes where Ryan Coogler sat down with Kodak to talk about sort of the change between, was it one, and Brad, you might be able to help me out here. I think it's like 120.
I can't get all the ratios correct. It is a education. This Kodak video, it's like 11 minutes long. And if you've ever wondered why people care about, widescreen and, box ratio and all that stuff, like why is A24 always doing this? This is the education. And what's great about that video is he doesn't make you feel bad for not being in one of these glorious cities that has the 70 millimeter IMAX,
like I am.
He shows you that all the options you have. And the truth is, most people watching this movie are not going to have your experience. And that's fine, because the Limax that I saw at the mall still delivered on the ratio changes and still had the emotional impact that he was looking for. And he explains that in the video. It's just he takes you to school, and then he
Yeah.
takes you to church, and it's great.
I don't know how in depth we're going to get into the storyline, but there's a couple of things that I really, really wanted to talk about and discuss throughout this. And before we get into the story really at all much deeper, the one thing I want to say is, and Chris, you keep mentioning that Coogler is like a master behind the camera.
Mm-hmm.
There are some of these shots that just get set up. Like so first off, when they're driving down the road through the fields, and it's just beautiful colors. The colors are popping. It's cinematic. You got the scene where you're, Preacher Boy's playing the guitar in the passenger seat, and Michael B. Jordan's just in the front seat, and he just looks at him. He's just like, you think, and it's so great because the way that they have the actors kind of react to Preacher Boy's playing is like you almost feel like they're under a spell, which the lore of this film is that there are people in our world, like in society, and that are able to use music to bridge the gap between life and death, basically bring spirits from the future, from the past. And it feels like every time this music is played, everybody just there's this moment where you just feel like everybody is hypnotized. You just feel like everybody is so caught on every single note. And the moment itself isn't contained to the screen. It flows into the audience. And like there was every time a song started, every time somebody picked up a guitar, I was just like enjoying the music so well and so deeply. And the fact that it was like beautiful and well done. Chris, you link in the show notes the Sinners official playlist, and the music for this movie is incredible, especially in IMAX.
Imagine watching this movie in Dolby.
Yeah,
that would have been an experience.
And then the last thing that I'm really going to point out before, again, I let somebody else talk because I'm rambling, is
self-awareness is part of it's a part of it, Aaron.
There is this scene.
Okay.
And I know you I know you're.
Yeah, are we getting to the scene already?
I know the scene you're about to say, and I swear to God, if you haven't watched this film yet, for the love of God, watch this film. Don't have this ruined.
Yes.
No. Yes. Yeah. This is Aaron, go ahead.
Please listen to Brad and listen to us. Like pause this and like don't listen further. But the scene in the dance hall when the barn catches fire.
Pale moon.
Pale moon. Mm-hmm. That was honestly one of the most incredible experiences in a movie I've ever had.
Yes. This is Miles Canton's first movie ever, by the way, everybody.
The music to the way that they blended the different styles of music, the different cultures. And again, I was going to mention this, but the shot, the way that the camera is flowing through so many of these scenes.
It's a wonder.
Is so incredible. And then to have this barn burn down during this whole magnanimous occasion, like event, just like it's like poetry in motion.
Mm-hmm.
It is one of the greatest movie sequences I've ever seen. I'm 45 years old. I've been watching movies since I was 0. Like I saw Empire Strikes Back right out of the womb. My mom couldn't wait to watch Empire Strikes Back. So I'm like an infant, and I'm in the theater watching Empire Strikes Back. That's how long I've been watching movies. I watch hundreds of movies a year, and this is one of the greatest movie moments I've ever experienced, especially in that first crowd that I saw in Silver Spring at the Regal Majestic. Because what's awesome about it is like, okay, so you've already mentioned the lore, and the lore is explained in a short little animated sequence that kicks off the movie. How there are these people who can connect time and space through song, through art. And this is a film that is about art and the importance of art. And the vitality of art and how we need art, and art will save us. And the moment in this movie when that sequence starts, because we've already heard Miles's voice, Preacher Boy has this incredible voice, in that sequence in the car with the guitar, and how that scene isn't even paid off until the mid-credit sequence in the middle of the credits. Like, we don't even understand how awesome that scene is until the mid-credit sequence. Like, who does that? Who pays something off in the mid-credits? Not Marvel. And so we get to this dance hall. He starts going off, and we hear, Smokes, Lady Love explain the mythology again. And then we get a scene of Delroy Lindo, the old bluesman, explaining the power that Miles, that preacher boy, has. And we hear it can connect the past, and we're coming over and we see musicians from the past come into frame and start to perform with Preacher Boy. And then we hear her say, and the future, and we get this Bootsy Collins guy come in through the electric guitar. I burst into tears because I knew where we were going. And then we have this musical tour through history, all in that dance hall as it magically burns to the ground, and the camera goes up, pulls back, and then we see the interlopers observing and lusting over what Preacher Boy has and can do with their little banjos and whatnot. God damn, that's movies. And what I love is a story that uses its medium to its fullest effect. If you adapt Sinners into a comic book, into a novel, into a stage play, that element changes and you no longer have
lose
it's
something.
a totally different thing, right?
Yeah.
And Ryan Coogler is showing you what movies can do, and it is a glove being thrown down to the ground and calling on other filmmakers to embrace their medium, to tell their stories.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well fucking said.
Definitely like ditto everything. And here's something that's really important about what you just said too, is that scene in a less talented filmmaker's hands would have flopped.
Dude, nobody would have come up with it. Nobody would have come up with it.
Yeah. Like that scene is so Ryan Coogler because it just toes that line of like otherworldly and so personal to, and again, as you mentioned, like as we drift outside, we get our I guess technically that's our second look at our villains, but really our sort of, bridge into Act 2 and where this conflict was.
Like this is when the movie kicks off.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I think is really important about that particular moment is that up to that moment, we only get really one scene of, and I'm spacing his name here. Let me look really quickly. It's
Jack O'Connell.
Jack O'Connell. Thank you. As Remick. I sort of forgot that this was a vampire movie for a minute. And again, to speak on like,
not for a minute, for like an hour and a half.
Right. This movie is
what's awesome about this movie is it takes so long to get to the thing that the trailer's selling you. And you know, I could see somebody checking their watch. I don't trust that person because everything leading up to it is gold as well.
Right.
But that, this is a movie that's about build. This is a movie about a character and emotions, and you needed that time.
Yeah. And I think that's why like so many people can take something out of this, especially like people from different, communities, because when you look at the Irish aspect, when you look at the white aspect, when you look at the black aspect, the Asian aspect, like there's so much here and you're joined by this simple event that's happening in this town. But again, like we as the audience from our time here in the future, we are also invited into this story by the music. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the reasons is, again, it feels so powerful is because it is connecting our spirits to this event through the music that Preacher Boy is singing. And it's just, again, it's incredible. I feel like we should go at least right now, like hit the cast.
Well, real quick, I just want to say we're talking about this one scene, and I think it's extremely important to discuss, how that scene works. We've given Ryan Coogler his flowers. We'll talk about the cast here in a moment, but I think that we have to discuss the cinematographer, the costume designer, and the composer in this scene. You've got Autumn Durlan, Arkpal, Aaron, I think it's how you say that. She previously worked with Coogler on Wakanda Forever. And then more recently, and Brad, I'm curious, did you see The Last Showgirl with Pamela Anderson?
I did not. No.
No? Aaron, did you check that one out? It's great.
I did not.
It's sort of a meandering slice of life about a sort of think like what would happen if, you guys remember the movie Showgirls from the 90s?
I do. Mm-hmm. I have seen that many times.
Me too. And imagine if that movie just fast forwarded 20 years and she stayed in Las Vegas. That's what Showgirls is. It's like what happens at the end, right? And that is a beautiful movie, right? Ruth E. Carter, costume designer, also worked with Coogler on Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And then I want to give a very, very particular shout out because I think we all can agree, movie looks great. Everybody looks historically appropriate and also sexy as fuck. But Ludwig Göransson, is he in that upper echelon now officially, if he wasn't already?
Oh, he already was. Absolutely incredible score. A score that he actually does kind of like the Carter Burwell thing. Like, Carter Burwell, if you listen to the scores of like Miller's Crossing or True Grit, the Coen Brothers version, where it incorporates traditional music into something new and radical. Phenomenal. I would also shout out Hannah Beachler, the production designer on this. All of these people, with the exception of the cinematographer, have been the crew for Ryan Coogler. And once you get in good with Ryan Coogler, Coogler has assembled his team. They're his own Avengers, and they're going to knock it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Ludwig already has plenty under his belt with, he I think he even produced for Jay-Z at one point. But he also if you've seen Black Panther, the first one, you know how insane that soundtrack is. And I believe that he scored that one as well. So the man's already up there, but he did a fucking phenomenal job with this movie.
I'm prepared to put Gorson in stop me when. Okay. John Williams, Mark Silvestri, Sam Raimi, Michael Giacchino. He's in that group, right? I mean, easily.
He's better than some of those people.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Aaron, what do you think? Cast or box office? Where do you want to go next?
Let's do box office real quick because I don't know if you know this, Chris, but we still have another movie to get.
We do.
To.
All right, let's talk about this. I'll speed through this. Okay. So I know, Brad, you don't really care about the box office, right?
Sure
I don't think you do. Yep. All right. Well, it's interesting. Okay. And
let's have a conversation over here, you and me, Brad, while he talks about
Aaron, come over here. Come over here to the other side. Let's talk for a second. No, I think it's interesting, especially for this kind of movie, because as we spoke on earlier, Minecraft is fucking killing right now. And I want this movie to do Minecraft numbers, although it won't, and it never was going to. I still want this movie to do well enough where Hollywood and Warner Brothers goes, okay, let's do more of these, right? So according to Variety, Sinners needs to gross about $185 million worldwide to break even, given its $90 million budget. That's including marketing as well. The Minecraft movie, as we spoke about, is likely going to win the weekend again. Unfortunately, it's projected to get about $45 million in its third week. However, Sinners is looking to earn around $40 million domestically, so just behind the Minecraft movies. However, here's the caveat. Minecraft movie is being shown in 4,300 theaters, whereas Sinners is only being shown in 3,300. So just over 1,000 more screens Minecraft has at its disposal. Now, here's the really, really interesting part about this whole box office situation is that since this is an original script and since Coogler his stock has just been rising, I mean, you can say what you want. Temperature may vary on Wakanda Forever and Creed 3. You guys can talk about that amongst yourselves. I'm sure we could have a 2-hour-long episode about those two movies specifically, sort of living in that IP world that Coogler seems to make, poop at it, make gems out of poop, right? But what Coogler set up with Warner Brothers, and actually what he sort of set up with multiple studios, is that he struck a deal, or he basically put a deal out there for all of these studios and said, hey, if you want to make Sinners at your particular, studio house, not only do I get final cut rights, so I get to make this movie exactly how I want. He gets first dollar gross ownership, which is like Tom Cruise type of ownership. He basically gets a cut of the percentage right out of the box office. He doesn't worry about anything else. But, and this is the big one here, he regains the copyright to this movie, the ownership of the entire film after 25 years of just it's not like an Alan Moore, Dave Gibbons situation where as long as Warner Brothers keeps printing this movie, they keep the rights. No, Ryan gets this movie on, I have it here, April 19th, 2050. So on that Monday, Ryan is going to have a great day. And he actually spoke in this. He said that this was never about power. This wasn't about ownership of the property. It was more about personal symbolism. And it deals directly with the source material of the film, right? We've got a cohesion of a entire cultural movement. A piece of art is being appropriated. And Coogler definitely took this to heart.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah. Who do you think he is? A novelist? What's going on?
I hope more people do this, honestly. I want more
do you think filmmakers. But that's the question. Not everybody can do this. You know, these studios, these corporations, you know, they don't want it to happen. And like, what's been the reaction to this? It's been all the panic from all the other executives going like, oh, this is a dangerous precedent. You know, best of luck to anyone trying to get this deal again. The reason Coogler got this deal is because Coogler has made a lot of money for a lot of people. And they want to keep making money.
He is, as of today, the most commercially successful Black director of all time. And that's crazy to think because he's barely over 40, you know, like that is insane. So he kind of has already that sort of pull within Hollywood. So Aaron, let's get into the cast. It's an incredible one.
Okay. The cast is as follows. Michael B. Jordan as Elijah Smoke Moore and Elias Stack Moore, the Smokestack twins. Okay. This is the one person, I'm going to interject with this real quick. This is the one person who to me did not fit in this role, did not fit in this movie. Haley Steinfeld as Mary.
She's so good. Are you crazy?
She's great, but to be honest, when I looked at her, she like did not fit the bill. Like she doesn't look like you're like. She just didn't feel like she classically.
Aaron, is because she's white.
Oh,
is that because she's white?
When she pulls Stack in, says like, "Come and steal this pussy." Like,
that
sequence when she goes from that to vamp mode, like the change she does and the body language change, she fucking nails it. I loved Haley Steinfeld. Also, the scene where after she's gnarled on his neck a little bit and then pops up, she's like, "It's not what you think it is." Fucking killer. She has some of the best lines of this movie, some of the best delivery. Adamantly disagree, but this ain't my podcast.
First off, I'm only saying initially I didn't like her. After I saw the movie, I loved her in it. So thank you for pointing out all the great things that she did. To basically, what's the word, Chris? To bring back her luster for me. Like her.
Where did she hurt you? She hurt you at Bumblebee? Like what? Like
I think she's the secret trumper, from what I understand. But that'd be my only issue.
Don't tell me that stuff.
Sorry. I think she follows like Ben Shapiro or somebody on Instagram. I don't know. Who knows?
No, it was just honestly, it was just the I want to say it was Pitch Perfect 3 or some shit.
She is.
She just didn't. Honestly, like when I was like looking at the cast members, like she's the only one that initially didn't really feel like she fit the vibe. But when they brought her character in and we understood more about why, I love the fact that she was an outsider. You know, I love the fact that she never, because that's me. Like I'm mixed. So I know exactly how she feels. I know exactly what it feels like to try and have friends in a Black community when a lot of people don't even look at you and think that you're Black or you're not Black enough.
Well, she's 1/8 Black. That's sort of the caveat, is that her father's mother was Black. Her
father's mother was half Black.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like I relate to that, so I get why like she at the end of the day, like she did fit very well into this role because of like her. Again, she did very well. So,
I mean, and also sidebar, and it's very important. She is also smoking. I mean, just on frontal look, a beautiful person. I will say, and Brad, and actually both Aaron, I'd love to hear your thoughts. She sort of played in my head when she sort of made that heel turn there halfway through the movie when she attacked Stack. Sort of gave me like Salma Hayek vibes from Dusk Till Dawn.
I mean, like it's like, as somebody who was there opening day for From Dusk Till Dawn, saw that in the theater and had his mind blown by it. Like, I definitely was thinking a lot about From Dusk Till Dawn while watching this movie. I was thinking a lot about John Carpenter's The Thing when watching this movie too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like she serves a little bit of that function, but in a different way.
Sex as a weapon is, I think, kind of what I was thinking in that moment.
The movie is very horny, and I think it's horny in a transgressive way and in a compelling way. That
because everybody on the screen has chemistry.
That's what it is. They're dripping, man.
Yeah.
Miles Keaton as our Catton, as Sammy Preacher Boy Moore.
What a fucking first role for him,
right?
Incredible.
His debut. Buddy Guy is older Sammy Moore, in the mid credit scene. Jack O'Connell is Remick. Okay, we need to really, once I'm done doing the cast, we need to talk about the villain and their we could
probably end it on Remick.
Yeah,
we could probably end this conversation on Remick just so we can get to Warfare.
Yeah, so Jack O'Connell as Remick, Wunmi Mosaku as Annie, Jamie Lawson as Caroline, Omar Benson Miller as Cornbread. Man,
Old
that
8
guy
Mile.
has not changed. He has
8
not
Mile.
changed. Delroy Lindo as Delta Slim. Man, he killed it. Delta Slim, like Delroy Lindo was amazing in this. And yeah, Lee Jun Lee as Grace Chow, Yao as Bo Chow, and Lola Kirk as Joan, Peter Germanis as Bert.
Real quick, Brad, do you remember Lee Jun Lee from Babylon?
Yes.
So good. Aaron, have you
Okay.
seen Babylon?
I love
No,
Babylon.
I heard
I love Babylon.
I heard Babylon. Was the Babylon not the one that everybody said was terrible?
That is correct. And they're all wrong. Babylon Hive, rise
Okay.
up.
Babylon, yeah, for real. It is. There's a scene with Margot Robbie in that movie that it's a top 5 scene of all time where they have
I'll
to
have to check it
keep
out.
redoing it over and over again. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, but Remick, Aaron, you want to talk about Remick?
Yeah, so I want to talk about, because there's like this interesting juxtaposition. Again, we keep talking about the audio of this movie, the composition of this cinematic experience. And one thing that was really like such a like a kind of like a contrasting like juxtaposition, if that's what you want to call it, is the Irish music that, you know, because the vampires in this movie are Irish. Now,
Well, the one
you know,
guy's Irish for sure.
the one guy is, and I think this is a very interesting lore idea, and the fact that, you know, because again, my wife was asking me, why do you think the vampires were, you know, why the original vampire was Irish? Well, and there's a couple of things. Obviously, Coogler is very much tied into the Irish like heritage and culture, but at the same time, the way that I talked to her about it was, we talked about the fact that vampires tend to feed on vulnerable targets, you know, and obviously during this time frame, the Black community, the Irish community, because obviously this you know, vampire was moving west, but you know, in New York, in New England, all that area, like there was a lot of Irish immigrants, and so obviously like that, they pulling west, like they're gonna feed on those more vulnerable communities, which are the Black communities, which are the
Punch down.
yeah, they punch down. And so to me, it all was such an interesting, again, bringing together of these different, these different demographics that are these marginalized communities, especially at this time, and having them kind of, it wasn't like they're attacking them, like feeding off of them.
Oh,
The vampire's whole idea was to build the community and connect with people, because he was unable to die
Fellowship.
and unable to fellowship. Yeah. And so you don't ever really have, whenever you think of vampires, you generally have this feeling that they're like attacking and killers and wanting to destroy everything, where this guy brought almost like this biblical, like Bible thumping idea.
Not Bible thumping, right? Like that's what's so great about like the ending of the movie, you know, when Preacher Boy starts to pray, because Preacher Boy's about to die. He's going to become a vampire. He's going to be brought into the fellowship, and he starts doing like the deliver us from evil thing. And then all the vampires start to mock the deliver us from evil thing.
It was such a powerful scene,
right?
Such a powerful scene.
You know, Remick goes like, yo, these words, I know these words well. When I hear them, they bring me comfort now, weirdly, because when the English came and took my father's land, they said these words to me as they killed and stole and did the things that have happened to your people. He's trying to relate to Preacher Boy. Like, we're just the same, right? There's some differences. And it's those differences that are prickly and I think take, the movie to another thing. And, you know, like that access that Preacher Boy has to the timeline of humanity through song, through his connection, through art, that's what Remick doesn't have. And he wants Preacher Boy because he desperately wants to connect to his timeline. He wants to see his people again, and he can't see his people again. And he wants Preacher Boy to do that for him. So he's going to steal Preacher Boy's gift for his own purposes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it was such your unusual villain, because again, this is something that Coogler has done in the past. Well, I'm going to say, especially with like Michael B. Jordan is Killmonger. Like you have this relatable villain that you almost start to.
They're having a great time out there in the fire. That's all I'm saying. Like I wanted to get out there and dance with them. That's all I'm saying.
That again, I'm saying like the alternate scene where you're almost like you're feeling the Irish jig when he's like river dancing out there. And I'm just like, this is another great scene, because obviously the other thing was it was Remick who was Jack O'Connell's character was very front and center. And it was like, again, Haley Steinfeld in the background, Michael B. Jordan, like they weren't the focus in this scene, which is generally what you feel.
Yeah.
You know,
What I'm curious about, and what I'm going to need multiple watches to really work my feelings about this out, is what's the autonomy of the people who get bit by Remick? You know, because we see Remick controlling his clan, his vamps, actions, motions. There's the first time that the three come to the juke joint and they play, you know, the Robin song, and they're all in the same movement. And then in the dance, you know, he has them all doing river dance. In the Bible verse, he has all of them speaking what he's saying. They feel what he's feeling. And then he's killed. And so I'm guessing once he's killed, that autonomy is returned to the surviving vampires. And so the vampires that are in the mid-credit scene now can act on their own without him. And so what do they become? You know?
I feel like they could have already, but there was almost like this hive mind because because they all shared his memories and they shared each other's memories. I feel like there was this natural, like almost like we're going to do similar actions.
Yeah.
We're going to feel similar things.
To me, I see it as a commentary on religion and, you know, control.
Yeah, indoctrination.
Yeah, because, you know, while Remick can relate to Smoke and Stack and we can relate to Remick, we know that there's something that's like we can't just join the fellowship of Remick because he's in like a dictator position. You know, I don't know. I'm still working it all out.
You know, we had a similar. You were talking a moment ago about how Preacher Boy's doing his prayer at the end, and Remick is mocking him and saying that it brings him comfort. I found a similar moment earlier in the film with it was Delta Slim, Preacher Boy, and Stack were all in the car together, and he's talking about how he eventually got away from his plantation and how a lot of people he worked with had been killed, and the song that they sang while they were out there, and how he went from, you know, near tears, put back in that moment out there in the Mississippi sun, to singing and happy. And
but I don't know necessarily fully happy. I mean, he was doing the blues, right?
Right.
And the blues is channeling your pain and communicating your pain.
Yeah.
Right. I think that there's a certain amount of satisfaction, maybe not happiness, but there's a satisfaction there. In a similar way, Aaron, and we'll get into similar vibes in a moment here with Warfare. When we're all running, we're doing our sort of, you know, what do they call them? Like the songs we sing while we're running to keep in beat. What's it called, Aaron?
Yeah, the cadence.
Cadence. Thank you, gosh.
Yeah, running cadence.
Yeah, I like a running cadence. So
the last thing I want to point out before we move on real quick is just the fact that the transformation that Remick makes while we see him throughout the fight, throughout the film, just the vampires themselves, when they do that, like, you know, when they go into like vampire mode, the eyes, everything is so well done with that as well. It's very subtle. It's very subtle. The eyes were just insanely good. Like, there's that scene where Cornbread's out in the woods taking a piss, and the only thing you see is like the eyes in the background. And it's like Cornbread, and then it's like the scene cuts,
and they also look like the fireflies. Like, you initially think it's fireflies, but then the eyes stay there a little bit longer, so you know that it's a person. Yeah, it's incredible.
So like the Remick's transformation to, like, you know, he didn't go like full, like, you know, you think like demon mode, but he's like this, you know, he's got the teeth and the fingers, and he's just, oh man, it was incredible. The whole movie, incredible.
All right. We have talked about this movie for an hour now.
And did you stay all the way to the final stinger?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Which we can talk about, I guess, you know, at the end.
Just tell your listeners to the end, to the very bitter end of the credits.
Two credit scenes, everybody. Post and end credit scene.
Captain America's there.
Yeah. Miles Morales is going to show up in the MCU in the next movie. That's what you find out.
Thanos grabs a glove.
Real quick, a couple quick hitters before we move on to Warfare. Number one, we have the Choctaw Vampire Hunters. Why didn't we get more of that? I need more of that.
You didn't need it.
I want more though, Brad. I want more.
And guess what? If this movie does well, we'll have a whole Sinners universe.
The Sinnerverse.
They'll have a Choctaw Vampire Hunter Max show, a miniseries.
I do feel like this is one of those movies where whatever the box office ultimately ends up doing, if we get sequels or not, we got to get comics. You know, we got to get Sinners comics.
Yeah.
Yep. Which label is DC going to put that on? Is it going to be Elseworld? Is it going to be Black Label? Is it going to
I
be?
want Dark Horse from the 90s.
Oh, there you go. There you go. All right. One last question before we move on. Where does this rank in the pantheon of Ryan Coogler films for you guys?
Oh, number one.
Number one.
Yeah. It's number one. It's not like far and away number one. I think Creed is like
Great movie.
like a half mile number two, and then Black Panther's not far behind it. But yeah, this is one.
I mean, like for me, I'm like, is this my favorite film of the last 5 years? Maybe. Is it my favorite film of the last decade? Maybe. That's how much I love this damn movie.
Yeah.
Let me go through a couple here. Top Gun Maverick or Sinners?
Sinners.
Oh, okay.
Top Gun Maverick is a badass action film. It's got nothing under the surface. I love it.
Chris.
Great movie. It's all about filmmaking and attitude and vibes. Sinners is more, man.
Okay. All right.
Final thoughts, man. Let's go.
All right. Fine. All right. Final thoughts for me. I will say an important view at a time where movie theaters are under fire, where there is a lot of othering happening in the world, where Black filmmakers, Black folks in Hollywood are not getting opportunities in the same way that they were maybe only a couple of years ago, only a couple months ago. An insane accomplishment by Ryan Coogler and co. Michael B. Jordan will not get nominated for something, or will not get nominated for this movie, but he should, in my opinion. If nothing else, they should give him Best Supporting Actor just to be funny. Best cinematography should absolutely. I mean, again, we're only in April, but like if Arkpal does not get some kind of recognition as one of the greatest or one of the best cinematographers of the year, at the very least, Ruthie Carter should get the costume design. I'm just saying this movie deserves its flowers, everybody. That's all I'm saying. It's an absolutely incredible watch. Brad, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I echo everything you said. It's not the type of movie that gets recognition, but I've seen 2 movies in my life where as I was sitting in the theater, I went, oh shit, I'm watching a masterpiece. And this is a film that is going to be talked about for a long time by, the people who are excited about film.
Yeah. Aaron, bring us home.
Same. I went into this movie so unaware of what I was like really going to get.
Mm-hmm.
And that excited me. And then when I was done watching it, I just remember thinking like, this is exactly what I want to feel after a movie. This is exactly how I want to feel when something amazing has just been played in front of me. And I'm just like, this is incredible. This is what must be what people who actually go and watch like the Super Bowl in person feel like. Well, when they get a good one.
This is how Swifties feel when they get to see her live,
Right? Yes, there you go. There you go. There you go. This is how K-pop fans are when they get to see BTS live.
This is how K-pop fans feel when they just watch their favorite artists on TikTok, like every day. I will say one more shameless brag. The scene where we transition to the fight scene at the sort of near the third act, at the beginning of the third act, where the vampire, God damn it, why did she call them in? Like that is,
It's so like, good though.
It's like
why
Spock,
she called them in.
Yeah,
like it's so good.
Her death was one of the best.
Yes.
When she burned up like that, holy shit.
Yeah.
That was incredible. What a metaphor for sacrificing yourself so that your family may live.
And then the ratio change.
Thank you, Brad.
Yeah.
That's where I was going. It went from that 276-1 ultra wide to the 143-1 of the,
fucking nerds.
For a story size IMAX screen. It was immaculate. It's immaculate's not even the right word. It's a one in a lifetime type of cinematic experience.
It's Ryan Coogler going, Christopher Nolan, hold my beer.
Yeah. Again, going back to the ownership thing, Christopher Nolan's got to be kicking himself for not thinking of, and I don't know if he thought of it or not, but like the fact that Chris Nolan hasn't gotten this.
I think this deal like, I don't know if this deal would have happened a year ago. We're in a really weird place in Hollywood land. Things are, you said it's on fire. Like, it's crumbling. Like, you know, and if you want to maintain it, you really should go see movies like Sinners. But you should also go see movies like Black Bag, which made like $5 million. It's one of the best films of the last 5 years as well.
Mickey 17. Why aren't folks fucking going out and supporting that? Also,
because I'm going to shut up.
Aaron wants to move on to Warfare. He's excited to talk about it.
I know.
I'm just trying to look at the time, and we're like, we said, 90 minutes. We're at 1:10. And what are we gonna do? Warfare in 20 minutes? I don't fucking think so.
Okay, Aaron, out of 5 David A. Winers, what are you gonna give Sinners?
5.
5 out of 5. Aaron's first 5 on the Oblivion Bar.
First 5,
baby.
First 5.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I love it. And he actually told me that as he got out of the theater, and I was so happy.
I couldn't hold back. That, like, normally we never share that shit.
I get it.
But as soon as I walked out, I was like, hey, man, I gotta tell you right now, 5 out of 5.
Brad?
High five, Aaron. Right through the monitor.
Virtual 5.
Boom. 5 for me as well. I don't give out a lot of 5s. Is that true? I don't know. I definitely gave a 5 to this one, though. It feels like it's been a long time since I've given a 5.
Brad, 5 years, Chris?
5 years.
5 years? And I've never given a 5.
Yeah. I've given 2 5s out, everybody. I've given out 1 for Top Gun Maverick because, Brad, I will. I know you gave it flowers.
Fight you for it. It's a great film. I saw that 5
Somebody
times.
Somebody needs to, and I don't have the energy.
I gave Top Gun. It was an immaculate, equally as incredible viewing experience. And then I gave X-Men 97 a 5 as well because
that's great. I won't fight you on that either.
I'm going to give, just to be the other guy, I'm going to give it a very, very, very strong 4.5. If we did decimals, I would give this a 4.75.
I'm fascinated. I never give 4.5s. I give 3.5s. I give 2.5s. I give 1.5s. For some reason, I just never could do 4.5 because I never have the one thing I would change or the 2 things. What's holding you back from the full 5?
I think what it really comes down to, and like, again, we've been bragging about this movie for the last hour and 12 minutes. It was really, really close. I was just talking to my partner a couple hours ago about how I really wanted to give it a 5, and I was going to wait until we started discussing this movie to really cement that 4.5 or 5. And what it really comes down to is there are certain moments in the movie where it feels, and I think it comes out in the end credit scene. It comes out at the beginning when they sort of give us a little bit of exposition. It sounds like there was a little bit of fat maybe somewhere that could have been trimmed off to include those in a more integral way. But the beginning dump, I don't like ever in any movie. He does it in Black Panther 2, and I don't like it. And then at the end, it's just another 15 minutes of the movie.
It's the end of what?
The post credit scenes.
Oh, the mid credit scene makes the movie for me. That gets me to 5,
and I don't hate it.
And I understand how you feel. My first watch, I kind of felt the same way about the opening animation. But the way, 1, I like that it's animated. 2, the way that they then incorporate that animation into the narration in the rest of the movie, I think works so well, and you needed that in the beginning to sell that dance hall sequence.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I as we've said, I won't fight you on any of it. It's a very, very strong 4.5. Like it's so close to a 5. It's not, and who knows, once I watch it again, possibly it could turn into a 5, but seeing it in 70mm, I felt like if that wasn't an automatic 5 there, I don't know when it will be, but I'm willing to open myself up and see it, try again at some point. And again, it's incredible. All righty, Aaron, you have been excited to talk about this. So why don't we kick it off with you? Initial thoughts on the brand new film from Alex Garland and Ray Mendoza, Warfare.
All right.
Should we put a disclaimer out real quick as well?
Yes.
Go ahead.
For spoilers or for trigger warning?
Trigger warnings for you specifically.
Okay, yeah. So I'll just put this out for the listeners. I already kind of briefed Chris and Brad about if I get a little bit spicy, a little bit too spicy with this conversation about this movie, because I will tell you this, like, trigger warning for service members, for veterans. for anybody who may have gone through, family members who may have gone through something similar or known of something similar that happened to a loved one. This is very much a movie that will trigger that will bring up some memories, that will make, I'll tell you, like, we'll get into it, but I there were moments where like I was like feeling like I needed to reach for like a weapon. There were moments where I literally could smell like the gunpowder and like the carbon, and it was definitely I'll tell you the weirdest thing about this movie for me was anyways, just to get to the point, the warning was like, if I need to, I will step away from this interview, or at least take a moment.
It's a review, not an interview. We're not interviewing you.
Yeah. So sorry, you know what I meant. Like,
I know, yeah.
Again, like my brain's kind of messed up because like this movie is absolutely probably one of the closest things to reality like I have ever seen when it comes to a movie about like an Iraq deployment. And I did not realize, because I actually was slightly like a couple seconds late to the movie actually starting, and I did not find this out actually until right before we started recording, that this was actually this happened very close to one of the installations that one of the outposts that I was stationed at. It's actually the close to the place where I ran missions there as a truck driver, and then as well as that's the place that I got medevac to when I did have an incident where I was required to be medevac. So it definitely is very real. It hits very close to home. And this is not a movie. This is not a movie for entertainment. This is a movie for. It's like a documentary. It's like going and watching a documentary, in my opinion.
Yeah, very Restrepo-esque, right? You're sort of living in. And Restrepo is a really interesting, not the right word. It's a very illuminating documentary from the early 2010s about what it's like to be sort of on a remote base in Iraq. And again, a lot of folks know that listen to the Oblivion Bar. Aaron and I are both, we met while we were in the Army together. We are both veterans. As Aaron sort of illuminated there, he has definitely seen a lot more theater than I have, because I've seen none and he's seen some. So I was able to go into this movie and sort of view it from the outside, because that's me. I'm not here to pretend that I've some war-torn, PTSD-riddled hard ass. That's not who I am. I got very lucky in my time in the service. So, and we talked about it, before the recording, and I just want to sort of illuminate that for the listener here, that when I left the theater, I saw it first. I saw it at a Dolby theater, and you could feel every shotgun blast and every IED go off. And the opening scene, which is sort of a entry of levity into the movie, all hit you right in the chest as you were watching it. But I texted Aaron right after I saw it and went, brother, you need to probably, approach this with caution, because Ray Mendoza kind of says it perfectly. And I'll tie my initial thoughts with this, is that this movie is not here to ask why. It is here to show what happened. Like, there's no questions being asked with the movie. It is just a day in the life of these folks who went through it. So, Brad, how about you?
How about me? What?
How was your experience?
My experience was intense, probably for different reasons. I have no military experience whatsoever. I have lived a very soft life, and I am grateful to those that have done the service so that I can live such a soft life. I saw this film about maybe a month and a half before the theatrical release of it. I saw it at the Motion Picture Association's office in Washington, D.C., which is 2 blocks from the White House and across the street from the former Black Lives Matter Plaza. In fact, they were dismantling Black Lives Matter Plaza as I was walking to the theater. And when you go to the MPA to watch a movie, I've seen a few movies there now, you are going to watch a movie with the red tie crowd. And I saw the film, and before I saw the film, it's like a cocktail hour. They are giving you all the drinks you want. They're giving you all the food you want. Here's some shrimp. Here's some avocado toast. Here's an endless fountain of old fashions. And then Alex Garland and Ray Mendoza spoke before the film. They were there, and then they did a Q&A afterward.
Very cool.
And the theater at the MPA is a great theater. I mean, it's amazing in its picture quality and its sound. Um, so I knew I was going to watch, and I knew what the movie was going to be. So I knew I was going to watch something intense. I still didn't really actually know how intense it was going to be and how upsetting it was going to be for this very soft person watching it. I went with my buddy Brian, and once the engagement happens and the film is real time after the title card, and it really does a great job of showing the boredom of being out there, and then it does an amazing job of showing you what a sliver of what it might be like to be engaged in combat in this way. It is detached from explaining how those boys got into this place. Like, it doesn't really want to talk about the Iraq War. But at the same time, I think there might be like two intentions going on between the directors. I think Ray Mendoza has one intention and Alex Garland has another intention. And I think there is still a lot of political heat in this movie. I mean, every choice is a political choice. But I think some of Alex Garland's left leanings are revealed in the first few shots of this movie and the last shots of this movie.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I like, I've never really been in anything like it. I've heard people say like it's like the first 15 minutes of Saving Private Ryan.
What? No. What? No.
No, it's not. It's way more claustrophobic. It's way more upsetting. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it was an incredible experience. Again, I said that Sinners was one of the most memorable movie-going experiences I've had. Buzzed on a few old fashions watching this next to senators and congressmen and stuff. Recognizable people. Also an extremely memorable experience.
And I guarantee right after that movie, they went and voted on, cutting more veteran benefits. That sounds about right. What I think is like what we should really sort of, we don't spend too much time because we're already like so far into this episode, but this is sort of a great reflection on like post 9/11 cinema and how like right after 9/11 happened. And Aaron, you probably will remember this better than me. And Brad, actually you too, because you're a little bit older than me as well. But like there was this time right after September 11th where everything was that scene from Spider-Man where it's like, you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us, like that. It was a lot of that, right? American Sniper type of cinema talking about, Zero Dark 30. Hey, hoorah, hoorah, go America. I think, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I think going forward, we have become very aware of not only our role in that war, but also our eventual role in invading Afghanistan a couple years later.
I think some people have.
Yes. Yeah. Some of us have, some of us haven't. And it's going to turn out, I think we're gonna get a lot more of this is what I guess I'm trying to say is that like warfare is where we're heading for this kind of movie.
I mean, I don't know. And I also know that there has been a lot of complicated reactions to warfare from both sides of the aisle. And I think the conversation it creates is maybe even more important than the movie itself. But I would just want people to engage with it. I also feel weird that this is a movie that's just going to play at Tyson's Corner Mall and people are going to be eating popcorn too. And I've seen people online go like, "Oh man, this is like the best action film I've ever seen." And it's like, okay, I don't know if that's the lesson.
Yeah, that's one thing. It's like this is when my wife and I we went and saw it in a theater I've never even heard of, something called iPick, and it's like they have couches and really amazing food.
Yeah, they give you blankets. We have one of those.
Yeah, they give you blankets. Yeah. Well, I'll give you a little bit of my experience as far as the movie. So like I told you like kind of how I was feeling. I've actually like I told Chris and we talked about a little bit on the recent Patreon episode of The Grid. I've been kind of struggling a little bit recently with my mental health because I've actually been opening up a lot more about my experiences and the incidents that I went through while deployed to Iraq. And so Probably didn't time a lot of this stuff out correctly. But it was really like, opening that stuff up was kind of like really opening up some old wounds. And so going into this movie, like, my wife was excellent. She kept asking me, like, are you okay? Are you sure? Are you sure that you want to see this? Like, even up to like, being in the theater and sitting down, like, are you sure? We can leave. And I'm like, no, I'm good. So that whole like experience leading up to it was I was very, very aware of myself, my emotions, my thoughts, and seeing it in that theater, I think made it, because it was like a little pod, so I didn't feel like I was sitting in a crowd of people, but there were like a couple of like older people and some people and some younger people to my left, and I don't think anybody like who just goes and picks this movie like as the movie they want to go see really is aware of what they're like. I don't know if this is being marketed or if like it's being kind of pitched the correct way. I don't think people are walking into this movie thinking like this is something that really happened to a few guys and like or happened to a lot of people in different ways, and this is something that I need to be aware of and respectful of. Well, now they're going into it like it's a fucking action movie, like it's so
this presents our first real issue with the post 9/11 war cinema, right? Like, part of the reason we keep getting these American Sniper type of movies is because these type of movies are generally unmarketable. So you have to make these sort of popcorn movies. Brad, what do you got there?
Yeah, I don't know. I think depicting war cinematically, depicting war in any entertainment, you're giving it to an audience, and once you make the thing and once you release the thing, you have let go of the thing, and you can try to steer it and shape it to reflect how you feel about a concept, but an audience is going to do with it what an audience is going to do with it.
True.
True. And you have to then ask, like, well, how much responsibility does the filmmaker have to that reaction? How much responsibility does the studio have to that reaction? How much responsibility does the audience have to that reaction? It's kind of up in the air for me. And so for me, all I can talk about is what I thought about as I watched this film and what this film did to me. And in talking about that, maybe give somebody else some thought to process the movie in their own way. You hear, like, growing up, like I grew up, in the 80s and 90s, it was all about, anti-war films filtered through the Vietnam War. You had like two types of war movies. You had like the World War II, the good war. And then you had the Vietnam movie, the bad war. And both of those movies, like you watch Apocalypse Now, it's very different from here to eternity. It's very different from, Platoon's different than Saving Private Ryan, blah, 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 blah. And then sometimes you would start to get like some anti-war messaging filtered into World War II experiences, and you'd watch something like Come and See, or you'd read a book like All Quiet on the Western Front. But like for me, there's no such thing as an anti-war film, because once you put it out in the world, people are going to, it's going to be glamorized in just the telling. And so I think people are going to have that experience with warfare, and it's on all their other elements in life to deal with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely does. But can I slightly challenge you a little bit?
Please.
Here? Warfare. Is there even an opportunity to sort of glorify this and make it into like a gore porn, nationalistic, Fox News runs ads for it type of movie?
I think there is, because I've seen it online. Again, like really? I've seen people go like, "Oh, this is a badass action film." I've seen,
wow,
to me, every kind of human is out there, and they're all going to react to these things. And I think this movie doesn't. What this movie excels at is immersion, and I think that's what the Alex Garland side of things was really attracted to with this cinematically. He really wanted to put you in the feet and in the hearts and minds of these soldiers, and extremely successful in that way. And movies are empathy machines, to quote Roger Ebert. And like that's their whole purpose, is to put you in the eyes of somebody else and you explore the world through that lens for how many hours. But you know, you watch that crowd, and some people are going to engage with it in a serious way, and some people are going to be detached. I think that's the other trick with a movie like this, is because it's so intense. Some people have to disassociate for their own reasons, and when they disassociate, you know, they're going to form their own opinion on the thing, and they're, you know, like, will this stop people from? All right, I'm going to say something that I found so freaking offensive at the start of this movie at the Motion Picture Association. The kind woman who introduced Alex Garland and Ray Mendoza said something along the lines like, "We hope when you watch this movie, you come out of it and realize that war should be the last option." And they say this to like the red ties in this room. And I'm looking at these red ties. You know, like they're not going to come away with this and go like, you know what? We got to find a way to end the war between Russia and Ukraine, you know, because I've seen this movie. You know, people are going to come out of this thing and they're going to probably continue to do the shit that they're going to do.
Exactly. It's not going to change
it. But some people will be pushed a little bit, maybe influenced a little bit. Other people are going to rally around it, you know. I think for Ray Mendoza, he said during the Q&A that he wanted this movie to be a bridge between husbands and wives. You know, husbands come back from conflict and they have trouble communicating their experience. Give this movie to a wife, give this movie to a son, give this movie to a father. This kind of reflects this experience. And maybe you have some sliver of understanding.
I like that thought.
It did that. As I can actually say it did that, because like I was really interested to hear my wife's opinion of it, and she, you know, because you know, we may not have been married when I was deployed, but we were still like in each other's lives, and so you know, when I asked her about it, she's like, yeah, if I had seen this and you were like deployed, like this would have destroyed me. You know, she's like, basically, and she asked some things, and I like it actually brought up some things that I told her about from my experiences, like when I'm like let you know, I can relate to a lot of the stuff that goes on in this movie, and it's crazy because like even the scene like with the grenade, like, so I was, you know, if you don't mind me kind of deviating a little bit, so
real quick before you move on, because it deals with this, can I just ask you and lead into what you're about to say?
Yeah.
How are you feeling up? Because there's about 20 minutes of nothing. It's just them, you getting used to the characters, meeting the crew, getting a feel for the room, but nothing, no action is happening. Yeah. How were you in those 20 minutes leading up to that grenade?
Okay, so kind of the best way that I can kind of explain this is, this is going to sound weird. And I told, you know, I said the same thing to my wife. I said, there were a few moments there that I actually felt comfort. Like I actually felt comfortable. I felt like a little bit of nostalgia, because it is a separate world when you are deployed. It is a separate world when you're just with your squad, with your team, and you are like in that room with them, or you're getting like, you're in the vehicle, or you're on the bird, or
you're man.
You're in the shit, like, or you're just waiting for something to happen. Like there is a commonality that spreads across like everybody, you know, and that's honestly, and they say forged in fire, like these relationships that you get, and that's they do such a perfect job. Again, I'll tell you, this movie from start to finish is so relatable for anybody that has deployed or worked in the military, whatever. It's like you feel like the scene with the water bottle, when he spits in the water bottle and the other guy drinks it. That's shit that they do, that we have done, because like there is a certain level of brotherhood and camaraderie, and even, you know, homoeroticism that creeps into your life when you are in that shit, when you're stuck with these guys to your left and right, and like, you know, they nailed it, the feeling of it completely. Like, again, from the music video, when you're just,
what an opening. What an opening.
I honestly, it's so, I've done that. I've been there with my guys. We're sitting in a tent getting mortared from outside the wire, and we're all sitting there in our gear, and we're watching something stupid on somebody's laptop just because it's the only thing that'll play DVDs.
Yeah.
You know, like it is exactly like that. And then the other thing was, as it ramps up into, you start seeing the personnel, like the people on the street, and you start seeing these things. When you see the guy walking by, so you got the sniper who's in his position, and he's watching, and he's looking, and he's documenting, and he's calling things up. I've been there. I've been on perimeter guard where I've had to call stuff up, suspicious activity. And then he's like, what? Like when you see somebody walking by who is obviously like glancing, you know, at your position, like I'm feeling that. Like one thing that he didn't call out was when he scanned by that window and there's a flash in the window, and that was obviously either
I caught that
binoculars
too. Yeah.
or somebody else's scope.
Yep.
Like that stuff is going to live with me for the rest of my life, and I will be able to pinpoint anything like that. Any moment like you start seeing suspicious activity like that, I will feel that like to my soul. And then the other thing that was really like, I'll tell you this, and not to go again too much into the actual like plot of it before we're ready to. I have to say that there's the moment where over the loud, like you start hearing the loudspeakers, and they're like calling out, and they say that they're calling for jihad. They're calling out for the attack. That is exactly how they do it. I have been there. They will use the speakers of the mosque to call out for ways of attack, for ways of suicide bombers, for people to get prepared. And like you'll see when you drive through a town, and 5 minutes ago you saw crowds of people, and now you're in a corner where there is nobody around, we call it the pucker factor. Your asshole puckers up, and you get ready for whatever, like anything that can happen. Like this movie hits every single step of that in such a realistic manner. It is insane.
Yeah. I just want to go back really quickly. Call on Me at the beginning of this movie was a treat. Again, I saw this and this, we can get into how we saw this. You guys, well, you already mentioned, but I saw this in a Dolby theater, and you know, talk about two movies that have created core memories in the theater. I don't know, you guys can tell me if maybe I'm romanticizing this too much, but seeing that and hearing it in a Dolby theater, it really was that sort of like release of tension before, like I went in this movie and I sort of knew what it was about, but I purposely didn't watch any trailers because I wanted to be completely fresh with this movie. But I knew that I was going to be tense because I know A24, I know Alex Garland, and I've been in the military. So I know this shit's going to rock me in some way. And they say this is based on the memories of this entire squad. Goes right into fucking Eric Perez and Call on Me. And it's just bumping, and you see the crew, and Aaron, as you said, we've all been there in the military. We've all been in the situations where we're all just Neanderthal lizard brain idiots. And we're just surviving in some way or another. That really like let the tension out. Okay, let's go in fresh. And then over the next,
I had such an opposite reaction to it.
Oh, really? Okay. How was
it
it
like ramp my tension up? Because I knew what I was going into, right? I think what that scene really does a great job of selling is the age of the people who are there. Right. And reminding us that the people we send off to fight our wars for us are children. And like the youth of that scene, I found so sad. And when that dance sequence was starting, I was already going into a place that I knew was going to emotionally devastate me. And you know, like when they are first, you know, cutting to when they start to go out, and like the one guy does like kind of like the humping action, you know, like they're goofing off.
Yeah,
like they're goofing off
the building.
Like, and you know, they're in a neighborhood. They're in they date these people's homes. And then they're going to have this conflict where people are going to die and people are going to lose vital pieces of themselves. This neighborhood's going to be completely destroyed. And for what's the purpose? Like, again, 2 blocks from the White House, you know, across the street from Black Lives Matter Plaza. What is the point of warfare? And that's really what I was thinking about. And so, like, when I saw that scene, like, to me, that scene was just about, like, youth, kids, violence, devastation. Yeah. What's the point?
Growing up in the Midwest, I could tell you, and Aaron, you joined young too. You grow up in the Midwest, and everyone in your circle tells you this is a great thing. Go serve your country. Go protect freedom. in
Yeah.
quotes.
And Alex Garland said
Yeah.
in the Q&A afterwards, after Ray Mendoza was talking about this being a possible bridge for husbands and wives, fathers and children, that he would also think this could be a good movie for, young people to watch. And, like, when do you make the decision to join up? Is it when you're 18 or is it when you're 15? Is it when you're 14? And maybe this is the movie he would want them to see. I would still say that, well, a 14-year-old has only so much maturity and understanding of of life and death. And would this have an effect on, you when you're 14 years old? I don't know.
I don't think so, honestly. Aaron, what are your thoughts there?
I do not know. I mean, I think you're so ignorant and naive at that age that you're just nothing really. Like you're not even, you don't even have your own opinion to be dead set into it, Plus
this right here. I'm holding up my cell phone for everybody that can't see me. This is all of violence and it's all right here. I mean, you scroll through 3 videos on TikTok and you're seeing war. You're really seeing it on your phone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I appreciate your position on that, Brad. Like I really do. Like your kind of your take on that entry, the introduction into the movie. Cause I wouldn't have, I can absolutely see that, and I can actually absolutely understand that. Pretty much, I like just like the ending of the movie, like you mentioned, the beginning and the end were just like these very much like commentative moments. But I didn't really think about that entry like that because like going into it, I'm just like, this is like the calm before the storm. This is the moment where you have to find the moments between missions to feel like a human, to feel like a kid, to feel like a friend, or to feel like a group of just guys, and then or a group of soldiers, or because these are SEALs, I think.
Yeah, they're SEALs.
No, I'm sorry. So, it's Delta Force, I think. Right?
I thought Ray Mendoza was a Navy SEAL.
No, sorry. Charles Melton and his crew are Delta.
Yeah.
This is Navy SEALs. You're right. Sorry.
Yeah, and so again, and that's. I've worked with SEALs. I've worked with special forces, like and they're shitheads just like we are majority of the time. Just when it's time to get down to business, it's business time. So I know I appreciate you sharing that, Brad, because that's I like that.
Can I add?
I don't like it, but I relate to it.
Can I add a little commentary to that as well? Because again, I think part of the reason why I felt reprieve there, and I hate that my brain is hardwired this way. But while watching that and knowing that these folks are having a great time and knowing that some of them, if not most of them, are going to eventually not make it through the end of the movie, we signed up, didn't we? And Aaron, I know you can attest to this. We are the only country in the world that has a military full of people folks who sign up on the dotted line. No one's making us do this, So, it's not, I mean, yeah, you're right. It's not necessarily, it's definitely encouraged, right? But
I think there's a lot of factors into why people sign up. And I think everybody has a different factor. But I just think, there's lots of systems and places that direct us as Americans.
Strongly incentivized, right? I only went to the military because I needed free college and I got it, right? Yeah. Aaron, if I remember correctly, you can totally add to this. I think yours was just direction, right? You just needed something to do after high school, right?
I was living in my car.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, and it's a lot of folks that are like that. It's again, Brad, as you said, it's a lot of young. Yeah,
and I'm not looking to take your free will from you.
Right.
Like we all have free will. But I think some people have more options than other people.
Okay, let's get down to the minutia here because we've been talking about this for almost 30 minutes now and haven't really got to the details of it all. Aaron, do you want to talk about sort of the synopsis, I guess?
Yeah. Give me 1 second. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So this is movies based on Ray Mendoza's experience during the Iraq War as a U.S. Navy SEAL. This film is a reenactment of an encounter he and his platoon experienced on November 19th, 2006 in the wake of the Battle of Ramadi. To maintain historical accuracy, the film's material is exclusively taken from the testimonies of the platoon members.
I find that really interesting. Do you guys?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting in that sense they're using the word accurate, right?
Correct.
because it is memory, and how accurate is memory? Not that accurate. But what memory is authentic, to a
There it
person's
is.
experience. And so I think this does feel like an extremely authentic telling of these incidents cobbled together by all these people's memories. But I love how Mendoza and Garland really sell you on, like, it is memory. And again, talking about this Q&A, they really wanted you to know, like, this is not fiction. This is not a documentary. It's based on memory, and memory is memory. It's not
Yeah.
truth.
They say, like, you'll always forget what someone says, but you'll never forget how it made you feel. And I feel like that's this movie in sort of a nutshell. Like, the names don't really mean much. It's about what, again, Aaron, as you said earlier, the smell of the gunpowder. The feeling that I got was at one point when one of them is carrying the other, I could smell, like, remember that plastic, the way that like the bulletproof vest smelled like plastic and your Kevlar. I kept smelling that during all that. And then, I was on a 50 cal. Aaron, I think you were on a 50 cal at one point. It has a very particular, like, the grease has a smell. It's just all the Humvee, like, it all has this very particular smell that came rushing back to me while watching this movie.
Yeah, it's there's so much to this movie that is little details, and that's, again, the caked on dirt after the explosion of, like, blood. It's it's very accurate.
That's for Miller, the sniper.
Yeah. So, and then, just again, seeing the movements, seeing the struggle, seeing the moments, the explosions, even the tink tink tink, the ricocheting of the small arms fire. Like I said, I know we haven't gotten really into the deep of it, but, like, this movie plays out, just so everybody is, if you haven't seen it yet, 'cause, I'm sure a lot of people haven't seen it yet, but you need to go see it, or you should go see it just to be aware of, what we're talking about. But this movie follows them as they're preparing to break down this outpost that they've taken over this house for, because it is basically an overlooked point in the middle of the city. And that's what they do, is the SEALs would go from location to location, basically combing through and making sure that they were available to either overlook, overwatch, and find, the most wanted, so to speak. And so these guys are part of I don't really know what their elements are called in the SEALs, but you have this one crew, then you have another one that is not too far away, and they all have the same overlook, which is that it's a drone. Or it could be, like, it might be a manned drone. I'm pretty sure it's an unmanned drone.
Display
at that time.
force.
The display of force, that was an F-14, I believe. And so they have overlook, they have, air support, but it's spread out amongst these different groups of them. So and what you hear over the radio, and, a lot of people may not understand this if you don't have the experience. This is a complex, coordinated attack that is being carried out by the Taliban or Al Qaeda, whoever, is in that area at that time, against these elements that have been scouted out, who are supposed to be there in, I
think it was Iraqi insurgents is the, because I don't think it's Taliban.
Yeah, so it should be the Al Qaeda then. And they were, because this is pre-ISIS. But yeah, so, like, this is a complex, coordinated attack that hits each of these elements individually at the same time, and it is incredibly well done with what they, like, what the enemy at that time was able to do, coordinated wise. It's because they didn't give a shit about their own people. It's because they didn't give a shit about their, like, a lot of the town. Like, you'll see, like, they start clearing people out, but, like, they really go all in.
Yeah, I don't have any room to talk about that. All I can talk about is from the movie's perspective, and it doesn't have any access to the opposing force. We have the family in the house, and we don't really spend much time with them either. And, like, I don't want to get into, like, a political discussion of why we were in Iraq at that time post 9/11 and the value of being there. But my takeaway of watching it was, it just all seemed for nothing. You know, why do these people no longer exist? Why does this person no longer able to walk? What was the value? I don't know.
You know,
the cost reward ratio was not there because, and that was the other thing, was the transparency in the mission. You know, you have a lot of, especially with Afghanistan, and again, not to get into too deep of a political,
especially Afghanistan,
is you have, much like me, much like Chris, you did serve during that time. You may have not deployed, but you did serve and you did support the mission during that time frame. But there are a lot of people who are questioning what was the point of us going there and spending so much time and so much energy and losing so much life for it not to have changed or not feel like it's changed at all. Like, what was the point? What was the price? What was the cost? What was the reward? Because
2 words.
What?
Dick Cheney. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's probably a more nuanced, conversation we could be having there, but Dick Cheney wanted to.
Yeah.
That's why we were there.
Well, real quick, before, and yes, I definitely want to, I don't know if we need to get into that, but just real quick, all I want to say is there's
placing bait and walking away.
There's a difference between like the junior enlisted and like the people who are on the ground.
Yeah.
You know, and them just simply asking that question versus the people who may have had that answer at that time or all the answers at the time. I think I'm more asking from the perspective because there are people who have come and gone out of the military, who served during that time, who deployed multiple times, who still do not have a clear answer of that.
Right.
Who do not have a clear understanding of it. And I'll say, like, I will never talk down about my time in the military. Some of the things that I did, that I was, that like our mission, like I didn't fully understand. That was me as a child. That was me as a young man. You know, I cannot go back and justify or like really like speak to the things that I just know that I was a guy who joined the army, who was sent overseas to do a job. I did my job, and luckily enough, I came home. But you know, there are a lot of angry people, especially with Afghanistan. Again, it doesn't. We went and we left, and it doesn't feel like. And again, the conflicts over there have been going on for longer than we've been a country. They've been going on for longer than many religions have been around. And we're not going to go over there and change it with democracy, especially with forced democracy, you know? So
especially when we can't do democracy either.
But, and this is, again, this movie's in Iraq, not Afghanistan.
Right.
Yes.
And yeah, I think where I have trouble with warfare is in its detachment from the larger story, in wanting to tell such an immersive story, in wanting to put the audience in the experience of these people, in these combatants, these American combatants. The movie gives up the larger themes, and therefore any audience member can really put their politics and their point of view into this movie. And I think that's where it gets a little dangerous. I think for me, the final shots of the decimated street and the Iraqi soldiers coming out, and also the Iraqi family coming out, having gone through this experience, says a lot politically. Why do we end with them and not with the boys, the American boys? I think there's something there, but there might not be enough there.
I would argue with that because, and I do see what you're saying, but I would argue with, because it's such a isolated moment in time, but at the same time, you're still like, if you were to take, you know, your mind out of who you were, your experiences, opinions, and put you just in this moment, this isolated, collected moment, and that's all you had. You had nothing but the mission, nothing but your boys around you, nothing but your survival, nothing but your weapon. Like, that's it. You are completely isolated in this moment, and nothing else matters. And that's what you get. You get these guys and this experience, but you also get the same experience, like you said, from the family members and the enemy that are the enemy combatants. Now, I think that that's where kind of the power lays, is because it's almost imitating the mindset of the soldiers and the service members that go into it without that full big picture, and still have to focus on just survival. It doesn't matter anything outside this moment, this place, this time.
Yeah,
And
I
so
think the
I
movie
think
definitely sells that. That is what the movie is trying to do. I just know that most of the people who are watching this movie are the people voting, right?
Mhm.
Or hopefully voting. And I want people watching this also to be thinking beyond that moment too. And
yeah,
I wish we got more time with the Iraqi family. I don't necessarily need more time with the Iraqi soldiers, but at the same time, like, we never get that story either. Ever. We, like, those movies don't get made here. We're not interested in watching those films. We're not interested in paying the budgets of those movies and
Imagine
those
that.
experiences.
Imagine if like, that came out.
Right. I would love to watch it.
Yeah. I mean, I would watch it, but imagine the backlash that. Of that.
Yeah,
of
of
that
course.
reaction.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We don't have that because of that.
Right.
yeah.
I
I think the moment with the family though is super powerful. Like, even as a service member, like, it, to me, just that finite moment, because it does leave you. So what Brad is referring to is there's a scene, the final scene, once the actual team is successfully medevaced, because the first attempt is very unsuccessful. Once they are medevaced and they've left this home, just devastated. This whole city block is just demolished because of these tanks. The family walks out, and it's the mother and the father, and they're like, or it's like, they're comforting each other, and like, they're saying, "Are they gone? Are they gone? They're gone. You're safe. It's okay. You're safe. They're gone." And you would think that they are talking about the enemy, like some person that came in and invaded their home and invaded their house and like held them hostage. Because you, like, when you're like an American who's taught the way we are, you look at these guys and you think, oh, they're taking care of them. Oh, they're keeping them safe. Oh, they actually jump on them when the bombs are about to explode. But no, like, this family, they are captive.
Mm-hmm.
They are maybe safe, but they're not.
Well, they're definitely not safe.
Yeah, they're not.
They're
safe.
alive at the end.
They're alive,
Yeah.
but they're not. They don't see this Iraqi family. They don't see us as the saviors that we think we are.
Correct. They're only in that situation
Because
because
we're not.
we were there.
We just
we were,
fucked up
we were
their
there.
home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that whole situation was antagonized by us being in that center. I will say really quickly, and then we can move on. I just keep going back to Ray Mendoza saying that this movie is not interested in discussing the why, but the what. I find that just so powerful. And I think, Brad, that may slightly answer a little bit of your question.
But that's what I'm saying is maybe a little dangerous.
Sure.
That's like, for a younger person or the mall crowd, like, do they come away continuing to otherize?
Sure. Yeah. Okay, Aaron, talk about the cast. And
Okay.
I will say that, like, these are our next generation of Hollywood male stars, right? Like, who Aaron is about to list off. This is 10 years from now, our biggest movie stars. 5 years from now, actually.
Okay, so you got Joseph Quinn as Sam, the LPO,
Johnny Storm.
or the platoon officer. The DeFaro Woon Atai as Ray Mendoza, a communicator. He's the JTAC, and that's the I want to say it's like he coordinates the air to ground assault.
Yeah.
Will Poulter as Eric. He's the OIC, the officer in charge. Cosmo Jarvis as Elliot Miller, a corpsman, lead sniper. Kit Connor as Tommy, a gunner. Michael Gandolfini as USN, the United States Navy Lieutenant McDonald. Charles Melton as Jake, assistant officer in charge. Finn Bennett as John, another JTAC. And then Taylor John Smith as Frank, another sniper.
Mm-hmm. Of the cast, again, that is excellent. I think this movie changes in some significant way when Charles Melton shows up on screen. Like, he's in the beginning of the movie, but when he's there and his team get there to help, obviously and Aaron, we've all met guys like this who are like, just rub some dirt on it, you'll be all right. When you've got Joseph Quinn with 2 broken kneecaps. But like Charles Melton, he has this presence in the movie that I think is like, I firmly believe this, and I think I already thought of it before when he was, what's the Netflix movie, May December from last year, that Charles Melton he's a bona fide star. This guy is like, I think he's Timothy Chalamet in 3 years, kind of star. Joseph Quinn, of course, as we said, he's sort of on a run right now. Of course, with Fantastic Four coming out in a couple months, he was in the Quiet Place movies. He was obviously in Stranger Things. So like he's big, but then, Will Poulter, his second A24 movie in 1 month, he was also in Death and a Unicorn.
Yeah, I watched them days apart or weeks apart, I guess. And it was like, I love that dude.
Will Poulter is our next chameleon. He's our next Swiss Army knife in Hollywood. He can play so many things.
Adam
Warlock. Yeah, he's Adam Warlock. Just an incredible cast of you guys. Of this cast, and I think my pick is probably Charles Melton, or possibly Cosmo Jarvis. Those two are like real standouts for me. Who in this film, Brad, was someone you really, really liked seeing?
I loved all of them. I thought they were all extremely good. I don't think there was necessarily a standout for me because they felt as real as a movie can get.
As a squad, they felt like a squad. Yeah.
And I felt so connected to them. And I can't handpick one person over another. Like I said, Will Poulter, seeing him in this and then seeing him in Death of a Unicorn. And I think that guy's a genius actor. He can do it all, but they're all extremely good. There's nobody dropping the ball in this movie.
Right. And I think what you're feeling is the goal of the movie, right? I think that's what they wanted. They wanted these, they have a couple big names, but I think it's even been said by possibly Garland. He says that like every actor in this movie, whom they all got matching tattoos together, by the way. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but they all felt this camaraderie. This film was shot over only 5 weeks, but they were together every single day, creating this movie. They are one unit. Very similar, again, Aaron, as you mentioned earlier, when you're in the military, there is this boundless camaraderie that you can literally get nowhere else. And we're not trying to sound like gatekeepers here, but when you're in that shit, man, there's only one way to do that, and you have to be in it. Aaron, how about you? Is there someone that sort of stands out to you?
I think, Joseph Quinn and Will Poulter, but I want to I want to echo what you both said. Like this is a group of guys that just felt like there was a connection. There's this connective tissue between all of them that was invisible. But yeah, I think Will Poulter, when he gets injured and he's just like,
he checks out
and he can't breathe and he kind of checks out. I'm incredibly impressed with Will Poulter's story arc as a person, as an actor. He's done some incredible things in his career already.
I was gonna say, from what I understand, Will Poulter really wanted to work with Alex Garland. Because he's a pacifist. He's like, no war ever, bad deal, don't want to touch it. But he wanted to work with Alex Garland so badly that he decided to take the role. And again, I think the film is better for it. So,
I'll just leave it at that. I think they were all incredible. This whole, I was locked in from moment one, and on each of these characters, because I felt like, again, I could relate. And I've worked with guys, even the guy that came in and was like stepping on people's legs.
That's what I'm saying. Right? We've all been with that guy before,
And my wife was like, what was his deal? And I said, he's just an asshole.
He's just jacked up. He thinks that everybody can just rub dirt on it. And you're like, he's the hoorah rah guy, right?
Yeah.
I think it's worth mentioning too, Glenn Fremantle was the sound designer on the film. He's Oscar winner. He did Gravity. He's done a lot of films with Alex Garland here recently. He did Garland's first film, which was The Beach. Ex Machina, great A24 film. Annihilation, of course, great. Another A24 film with Men. Yeah. And then more recently, a weirdly similar sort of movie in a lot of ways, Civil War from last year. So,
that's one thing I want to kind of point out was not only is the use of sound in this movie so incredibly well done, but the use of silence in moments was just, it's one of those things where it's a excuse me, it's a thunderous like silence. It just feels like it's gonna like, because that's the problem, is when things get quiet, that's when things get scary. Like, you know, and again, like kind of like when we were talking about Sinners just a few minutes ago, it's, you know, you'd rather face the devil you know than the devil you don't. And when it gets quiet before an attack and you know something's getting ready, like that's terrifying. That's fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
No score.
No score. Yeah. Besides Call on Me, and I think there was
but that's like diegetic music. Like there's like nobody wrote anything for this.
Yeah. The last song of the movie was significant. I'm trying to find it. Oh, Dancing in Blood by Low was the last song of the movie, which I think sets the tone and sort of cements this movie for what it is, which is, again, a moment in history that is unexplainable and horrendous, and no one wins, and happy times, everybody. Let's end this thing. We've been over 2 hours here. Final thoughts, Brad, on Warfare.
Great, complicated. So glad I watched it. A movie I won't be forgetting anytime soon. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'll let Aaron, you end it here. What an incredible episode for us, us three folks to get together and talk about these two movies. Again, Brad, you said earlier that, and when I said that we're on fire right now, I meant like this moment in movie history, we're on fire, because you've got movies like Warfare and Sinners coming out.
Yeah, it feels like movies are back.
Movies are back. Minecraft movie. It's all here.
Black Bag, I would also.
Black Bag, yes.
Really champion.
Steven Soderbergh, again, one of the better movies of the year. I think it's number 4 for me. But anyway, point being is that this experience is, as you said, Brad, it cannot be replicated. It will not be forgotten. As someone, again, who has not experienced what these folks have and what Aaron has, it feels so real. It's sort of lost of words. Like, I don't really have anything else to say besides an incredible viewing experience. Visceral, I think, can be said about this movie and Sinners, right? Like, I felt something, even though it wasn't necessarily a good feeling. I think when I go to the movies, all I want is to feel something. And again, you mentioned it, Brad. Roger Ebert, famously said, film is a empathy machine. And I don't think you can realize what people that are in the military what they go through unless you see something like this. So, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, I think that movies like these, as uncomfortable as they might be in moments or in specific times in people's lives, I think movies like these are absolutely necessary because, much like we're doing now, we're 3 people with very different backgrounds, very different origin stories, and we're able to discuss it and talk about it and even come to terms with, the fact that you may believe it's about something else, or we like it because of this reason, or whatever, political alignment, whatever.
Haley Steinfeld's bad in Sinners, all these things. Yeah.
I didn't say she was bad in Sinners. Let me finish. Can I finish? No. So I just think, this is a movie that gets people talking. It gets people thinking about, the consequences of war, the implications of war, and who at the end of the day is left, to settle the bill. And as somebody who has lost people overseas, as somebody who's been through moments like this, and who have, I'll be honest, like there were moments where I was in the theater, like crying, like emotional, and it was difficult to hear that, like the screaming, like in the background, because like that happens. Like if you get, when people get injured, when you have, again, I'd say that I felt moments of calmness and clarity while I was in this movie, even though there was all this stuff going on, and normally it would overwhelm me. But that's something that I've lived through and I've dealt with, and it's almost comfortable. Mm-hmm. And that itself can be a little bit scary to me. And it just shows me like stuff that I need to work through. But from where I came from to where I am now, being able to sit in the theater and watch this and talk about it is, to me, I can see the progress that I'm making. So movies like this are necessary, but they're also important conversations. Like Brad, the fact that you brought up like that Mendoza wants this to be a bridge between spouses and children and parents, and that's absolutely true. That's, as somebody like who, again, has spoken to many veterans. Chris, you've spoken to many veterans. As somebody who's been through it, like I don't realize the things that I don't talk about because I'm not comfortable with, or because I don't think that people want to hear. Nobody wants to hear about some of these things, you know. But sometimes you need to share with people around you so that they can understand what you've been through. And this doesn't apply to just people who have been traumatized by war. This is about anything. Share in your own time, but it is important to share with your family so they can understand and relate and be there with you. So this movie was incredible for me. It was an experience, and it was something that brought me a little bit, I would say almost a little bit of comfort and understanding of who I was and what I've gone through. Which I'm really trying not to make that not sound like egotistical.
I think it's super important, dude. I think that's like, it's important to feel seen, you know? It's important.
Yeah.
It's important to have stories that you can point to and go like, I went through something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, and that's true. It's like, I really haven't had that opportunity. And this movie really is one of the first ones that I've actually been able to say like, yeah, I can relate to this film. Like I was there.
It's like, isn't that the value?
Literally and figuratively.
Isn't that the value though, right? Like, as you said, sometimes it's hard to talk about, but movies like this, what's better than showing, you know?
Yeah.
It may not be exactly what you went through, but it's pretty close, you know?
Yeah.
And again, as you said earlier, it was tough, but you actually went through it back there behind us. So you got through this too. And I'm very happy and proud of you, my friend, that you were able to do it. I was happy that you were able to get in there and see it. Cause I was nervous when I got out of there for you to see it. But I'm glad that you at least had, I won't say a pleasurable time, but you at least saw the value in it. So
yeah, I'm extremely thankful for my support circle that I have, and everybody that was like, you know, especially like Carly, like she was incredible. Like before, during, and after the movie, like, you know, the fact that we went to a place and had dinner and had like a good day beforehand, you know, was definitely something that like eased me into it, you know. So I'm incredibly lucky for the support that I had going into this, and it made it easier to process.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I wasn't going to say this, but as a black vampire, I had a lot of trouble getting through Sinners. And I think this is probably a good time to discuss that. We could go another hour if you guys want. We could do another 45 minutes or so, if that's okay.
Talk all night long. I got nothing on schedule.
I'm kidding. Okay, Aaron, since you ended us here out of 5 David A. Weiners, real quick, Brett, you know who David A. Weiner is?
No.
He's director of In Search of Darkness, In Search of Tomorrow, those 4-hour-long horror documentaries.
I've seen one of them.
Yeah, he's great. He's been on the show a couple times. He's a dear friend of the Oblivion Bar.
Dear friend.
That
I wish I want to know what we should reach out to him and see if he can record a clip for us about his opinions of Sinners.
Ooh, yeah. He is like a horror aficionado, so I think he would which we didn't really talk about. We can talk about another time, but is Sinners a horror film?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is Warfare a horror film? Yes.
Yes. That was an easy yes for me. I wasn't sure about Sinners, but I think you're right. Yeah, I think it is a horror film.
I like, you know, boy, I got 45 more minutes to talk about genre. Let's go.
Aaron, out of 5 David Weiners, what are you going to give Warfare?
I'm going to give it a 4.5.
Okay. Same.
Hold on. Same?
Same. 4.5. Yeah.
Same question to you both. The 0.5. What's the 0.5?
For me, again, Brad, as you said earlier, you're a little perturbed about the just the show and not the tell. And you know, not every film has to tell, right? But I think a lot of films should have at least a direction, a slight message, maybe a couple messages.
I think, yeah.
And I don't know if this movie's interested in that.
Sorry. I asked the question. I'll let you answer. This is not my podcast.
No, it's okay. I like it. It's just, it's one of those things where I enjoy myself. It was a visceral experience. Everything was about right. But there was just, and it's very similar to Sinners, there's just a small part of me that just wanted a little bit more of what I was getting. And I believe in a levy. I want movies to cut it off before it's too much. But there was enough space there where I'm like, just give me 10, 15 minutes more. Tell me what you're trying to say here, Mendoza / Garland / Coogler. But it's pretty great. It's a strong 4.5.
Okay. Aaron.
I'm actually glad that Chris said that first, because I'm changing my answer to a 5.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
2 5s in one episode. We got 2 5s.
I'm happy you changed your answer, but could you still like kind of work through the 0.5? Is it because it's not a fun time?
No. So to be honest, I think I was a little bit hesitant to give it a 5, only because I was so excited about how good Sinners was. And also I didn't know, I wasn't sure how I necessarily felt about this movie and it's like, it's simplicity in a place and time. But I think that talking through it and kind of like understanding like how this movie is set, with like the initial, like, again, the initial calm before the storm, the video going through like building everything up into the actual attack, and then what it brought out in me, and then the actual, like, the final moments of them getting out of there, the relief, and then the family, that almost silence at the end, and the use of sound. Like, I think all of that together, kind of like talking through it, and then hearing Chris kind of like think, because he said he wouldn't have minded a little bit more. And then I thought about the fact that in the past there's been a few movies where they've had this moment where it's just an unnecessary moment of them kind of spoon feeding what it all meant to the audience. And honestly, I think that one of the most powerful things about this movie is the fact that it doesn't spoon feed you what it all meant. Because to be honest, we as a country, we as soldiers, and we as service members, and we as a lot of civilians are still struggling to figure out what it all meant at the end of the day. And so I think that this really speaks volumes. And for that, it put, I was like, why am I not giving this a 5? Because it's going to live with me for a long time, just like everything else that I carry with me. This movie is going to be one that I will come back to for sure.
Brad, I'm going to go ahead and guess that you're above a 4.5. Am I right?
No. I'm a 4.
Okay.
And I think it's a fantastic movie. Why I don't have a 5 is a reflection of my concern and confusion of how this film is interpreted by others. And I think the power of this movie is in its distance and its immersion, the two of those things. And I think if you were to overly explain and pull out a little bit, you would lose something that is trying to communicate that sliver of understanding of what it must be like for people who went through this experience from this side of things. But again, when I see people responding to it like a Call of Duty game, I go, maybe it shouldn't have been as subtle. I don't know. So right now I give it that 4 because of that concern / confusion. But there's no denying its artistry and its emotional core.
I think there's something to be said about the area of growth with the sort of, again, subtlety that you were saying, sort of the sitting on a fence, as you said earlier, and I totally agree. Garland is totally a leftist and wants to put that in his work in super subtle ways. And I think Mendoza is sort of, I don't know what his political alignments are, but I would imagine that he wanted this movie, again, to be about the people.
So that's it. That's exactly right. Like Mendoza says, it's not a political movie, which I don't think is a thing. But from his perspective, it's not a political film. It's about, honoring the memory and honoring his friend who lost so much in this moment and wanting to be that bridge. And I think that is so important. And I wouldn't take anything away from that. But I also know Garland is a leftist. I was just watching him on GQ talking about him being super leftist. And I think there are elements in there that he sprinkles in that are there, but you gotta be watching this movie. And if you're a 15-year-old kid second screening it, you're gonna miss those things too. But that's so I don't know. It could be a 5-star next week, but
yeah,
I know it was great, and that's why I got to give it 4 stars.
I still just this is the last thing I'll say before we can end the show. I am just I'm so bewildered by anyone who would find glory in this movie at all. This is so not. It's not even.
Yeah, but
it's
Chris,
so blunt.
you're living in America right now, right?
Yeah, I know.
I've been saying that for the last 12 years.
Yeah,
Like I just don't get it.
This is like there's no Chris Kyle hurt locker moment in this movie. No one you don't have Will Poulter with 2 M4s in his hands popping off in the air like fucking what's his name in Thor Ragnarok?
You're talking about like Carl Urban's character.
Yeah, Carl Urban's character. Yeah.
If
Desmond's
like I've seen and know that you can watch this movie and go like, fuck you Iraqis at the end of this,
Ugh.
you like go America. And I just,
if that's how you feel, go touch grass is and again, this is not my leftist speaking. This is my realist speaking. This is someone who like sees what is on screen. And again, I'm literally speaking to no one right now because I would imagine most people listening, and especially you two, understand what this movie was at least attempting to say or dancing around even. But gosh,
I think what's compelling about it is the difficulty of the conversation around it too.
Sure. I will say as sort of a last thing, if you found America in a good light after watching this movie, my gosh, turn this podcast off, delete Spotify actually. And just like go touch grass. Okay.
Email me.
I think
bbccpodcast@gmail.com. Let's talk.
Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
I think the if I can just point out one last thing, and it was kind of one of the hardest, like interesting things about this movie was there's a moment where a radio operator had to call and impersonate an OSIC.
Oh yeah.
A brigade commander.
Yeah.
In order to approve additional tanks to be deployed to rescue this group of service members. And just, can you imagine having to be that guy on the radio and like he's asking me, like, I mean, first off, my wife is asking me like, oh, like what would happen? Would he get in trouble? And I'd be like, to be honest, I don't give a fuck.
No one
if
does
that was
in
me
that moment, yeah.
In that moment, I will impersonate the Queen of Egypt. I'll impersonate anybody because you can throw me in jail for 50 years. I'm going to get these guys out of here.
Right.
And that should have been that. There should never be a moment in anybody's memory or history where you had to impersonate somebody in a higher rank than you simply to get a rescue.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is perfectly illustrated in those shots where you get the aerial craft infrared sort of scene where you see everyone as little green dots.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Brad, those folks that you watch this movie with, that's how they see us. We're little dots on a screen, on a black and white screen from 150 feet up in the air. You know what I mean? I think that's a very intentional creative decision by Garland and Mendoza. Okay. That's enough warfare. That's enough centers. Brad, thanks so much for hanging out with us for 2.5 hours.
Oh man, thank you for having me.
And on a positive note,
that's right.
Like you were saying, you watch these two movies, you go like, damn, these are movies, man.
Yeah.
Like it's good to go to the theater and watch some movies that are going to do what only movies can do. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I was in a rut after last year. I know a lot of people had a great time at the theater. I didn't have like these like wow moments in 2024. I had movies that I enjoy, but not enough. And I feel rejuvenated by movies like Warfare and Sinners.
Agreed.
And I'm like, bring on the next one. Let's go Thunderbolts.
You saying that made me think of 2024, the way I felt after watching Dune Part 2 and how excited I felt about cinema and going to the movies. I felt that with both of these movies.
Yeah.
I got that one time last year and I got that twice in 1 week
I think
year.
I got that, definitely after both movies. And I think it's because you expected so much more from the rest of 2024.
Right.
And didn't really necessarily get that. So it's amazing to have it happen. And again, I'm excited because I've never given out a 5, let alone two
5 stars.
2 in one goddamn day.
That's a 10er right there. All right, Brad, Tell the folks one last time, how can they find you? What's coming up on Comic Book Couples Counseling here in the near future?
You can find me comicbookcouplescounseling.com. We're on all the podcast platforms. The Grant Morrison episode, lifetime highlight. Whether
Amazing.
you like Superman or not, please listen to that episode. I think the conversation around Superman in 2025 is really interesting. I think also that it would be a great time to revisit the 1938 comic of Action Comics #1, which I just did this past week, thanks to Superman Day. Look at that. There you go. Like the Superman of 1938 is not necessarily what you think of when you think of Superman. And Grant Morrison and us had like a really interesting conversation about Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster's creation. Go check that out. This coming week or whenever this episode is dropped, our latest episode is going to be with Tyler Crook and Christopher Cantwell, friends of the Oblivion Bar. Their new comic is out of Alcatraz from Oni Press, who are killing it. And the first or the second issue, again, depending on when you're listening to this, should just be out. It's one of the best comics on the stands right now. Nobody makes comics like Tyler Crook.
That's right.
Go check it out.
I think I'll do you one better. Out of Alcatraz is the best book of 2025 so far.
2025 has been a really good year.
It's been a good year.
Really good year. It would
Did
be
you read
in
Free For All?
Conversation with that in my top 5.
Yeah.
We gotta
Aaron,
see how
did
it
you
all
read
shakes out. I feel weird saying a movie's a comic's the best comic of the year when we've only got 2 issues.
So far. Yeah. Aaron, what were you saying?
Oh, I was asking Brad, did you read Patrick Horvath's Free For All?
Sure did. I will read anything that man makes.
Correct. That is the right answer
Exactly.
right there. Support.
Okay, I'm gonna show Brad my while you talk. I'm gonna show Brad my little prized possession.
Support centers.
Here.
Support warfare. Jesus, and also support anything that Patrick Horvath does.
Very cool.
Yep. Aaron's showing off his Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees card that's signed by Patrick. Okay. So as Brad said, all of their Comic Book Couples Counseling stuff will be in the show notes. Make sure you guys go give them a follow if you're not already.
Yeah.
I would, again, as I said at the beginning of this episode, 2.5 hours ago, if for some reason you're not subscribed to Brad and Lisa's podcast, that's madness. Crazy talk there. But that'll do it for the Oblivion Bar podcast this week. Episode 190 is in the book. And Aaron, we are officially on the road to 200 as of this episode.
Congratulations.
200 it's about 2 months away, but still that's coming up.
I feel like that's a lie because of how many bonus
Well,
episodes we have.
correct,
But
yeah.
but fuck it,
According to the we're like legacy number 259, but normal Oblivion Bar episodes we're at 190. So
Yeah, Lisa and I were doing that legacy numbering business at one point, and then we were just like, forget it. We're going back to the olden days. This is how many episodes. So we started our podcast like 100 episodes apart from each other because we're about to hit episode 300.
Yep. Yeah, you guys have been around for a little bit longer than us, but you guys have been a good friend to us. Both you and Lisa have been great friends to the Oblivion Bar since our inception.
Yeah, right back at you.
Yeah.
Now we have to have Lisa on alone, just to even it up.
She did
You can't
mention
just,
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We will talk about, we will chronicleize and rank the best monkey songs in existence.
Oh my God. How about musical, like Broadway musicals?
Yes.
She would love that.
Best romance comics of the 1960s.
There's a musical coming out soon, isn't there? There's like a new
Was it?
musical.
Sinners was kind of a musical.
Yeah, Lisa might debate you on that, but
Right.
Wicked Part 2?
what's that?
Wicked Part 2?
Yeah.
Lisa loves Wicked.
Yep. Wicked's great. There is a musical. I can't remember what it is now.
I just saw Boop on Broadway, and that was probably my favorite Broadway show I've ever seen. It was amazing.
I keep forgetting Aaron's in New York City living the good life.
Literally lives in culture.
I'm
Just
going to be in New
culture
York
around
City
him.
Monday.
Ooh.
Just FYI.
Doing? Oh, well, we'll talk. We'll talk.
Family, man.
We'll talk. Yeah, I forget we're recording for a podcast sometime.
Well, with that being said, Aaron, why don't you take us out of here?
All right. Subscribe to our podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Audible, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. That's where we are. Thank you to our patrons, Alex, Alice, Aaron, Botter, Chris S., Chris White, Christy, David, Elliott, Erica, George, Gianni, Greg, Haley, Ham 6, Jake, Jeremy, Kyle, Losi, Mike, Miles, Mike, Olivia, Ryan, I, Robert, Saunter, Sean, Trevor, Travis, Zad, and Brad and Lisa. Brad and Lisa. I still didn't breathe yet, so I'm still good. Brad and Lisa.
That's us.
That's you guys.
Brack from Space Ghost. If you want to support the show without spending any money, a follow on your preferred podcasting platform and a 5-star rating and or review on an Apple Podcast and Spotify helps the show a ton. Follow us on Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitch at Oblivion Bar Pod. Official merch for the show is on our website, oblivionbarpodcast.com. Big thank you, Oni Press and Endless Comics, Games, and Cards for sponsoring the show. Thank you, KXD Studios, for all of our Oblivion Bar art. He's at KXD. He's at KX. He's going to leave that in.
Yep,
He's at KXD Graphics on Instagram. Thank you, Dreamkid, for all of our musical themes. And once you fuck up, you just can't get back on there. Thank you, DJ Skyvac, for our grid theme. And last but not least, do not forget to tip your bartenders 20% or more, or we will send the Gullicksons after you.
That's right.
You're damn right.
Brad in first, and then Lisa to finish you. All right.
Yeah.
I know tipping culture is getting a little wild. You know, you go to the gas station, they give you a 20% tip option for cashing out, but servers, Ubers, things like that, please, 20% should be the lowest that you tip everybody. They deserve it. It makes their day and it's easy for you. So thank you, Brad, again, for joining us here on the Oblivion Bar. Thank you everyone listening right now. We appreciate it. Next week on the show, we are talking to Kurt Piers, talking about Lost Fantasy, his brand new book over at Image Comics. But until then, we'll see you later.